Yes, yes, yes. Jump in. The water's warm. It's me. It's Piddles. It's the balloon party. You're here on 101 ESPN.
It was all done.
Nailed it?
It was all done. Cool. Yeah, scale it to 1 to 10, definitely I would say an 8. T-Bone, where you at on that?
I'd go about 6. I wasn't as impressed with that. Yeah, no.
T-Bone's in a real
feels low.
pissy mood today.
314-399-9646
I want to be here.
is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Tim is off today. It's one of his 700 days of unlimited paid vacation here at 101 ESPN.
So you and him.
Very envious of his vacation plan that he has somehow found a way to accrue.
So the water is
in a year and a half here.
The water is actually warm where Tim is at right now.
I would assume so. I think he's playing golf. This is a guess. I'm purely assuming right now. I have no idea where Tim's at.
You know what happens when you assume things.
I know he's not here today. I know he's not going to be here tomorrow. Somebody on the text line says, now we got to take our shirts off. Hey, man, if that's what you guys need for us, we'll do it. We'll do it. Just stick around. Stay here for the next hour. We'll hang out with you all. Does Tim keep the bed up, or does he take the bed down for his open? I feel like Tim doesn't have a bed. Does Tim have a bed?
No. The water's warm. It's Piddles. Piddles' 6-shooter today.
Turn it off. You know, we don't need the bed.
So if we were doing the Tim thing, what we would typically do would say...
sit in this chair real low, too.
And he leans back.
He
leans back a little. Sometimes he tosses his hair.
T-Bone, what do we have today? Do we have anything interesting to talk about? We got anything interesting over there that you've been working on for us?
Yeah. What do you got, Piddles?
Well, did you guys
with the
see?
6-shooter.
We've got some relocation going on in baseball.
Oh,
relocation.
Really? Let's go to the next one.
It's official.
Oakland said, let's go from one dump to another, and let's move to Vegas.
Did you just call Vegas a dump?
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow.
I mean, baseball's not going to thrive there. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, sure. Why would baseball thrive somewhere where you could live sports gamble?
I am actually worried about this.
What? It's Vegas. Vegas!
Woo! Vegas! I think there's a chance that this goes really poorly. I think basketball is going to succeed in Vegas. I think football will succeed and has succeeded in Vegas. We've seen hockey succeed in Vegas. I think all of those are very different than trying to put a 162-game bad baseball team in the city of Las Vegas. I don't know how much you guys travel to watch your favorite baseball team. It happens, certainly, but not as often as it happens in a football season where your team is traveling to one place once every 3 or 4 years. If your team doesn't play in the AFC West and you play against Vegas, guess where you're going to travel if you want to follow the Bears this year?
Freezing cold Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Vegas in the indoor arena where I'm going to be able to go gamble for the weekend, and I'll just build a weekend around it. It's one weekend. There are only 17 of them over the course of the year. You can follow your team for that one. That makes sense to me, where it's a destination for football fans. For hockey fans, you're going to go to Vegas 3 times over the course of a season, right? And you're going to be inside while you're there. It's during the winter. You can get away from wherever you're coming from and go watch your team there. You're going to do that for baseball when it's 100 degrees in Las Vegas when you're out there,
and
you're going to go watch a Tuesday day game between the Cardinals and the Las Vegas A's? That's what we're going to do? I don't believe that, and I don't think they're going to have enough Las Vegas A's fan, or whatever they're going to be called whenever they arrive there, to be able to sustain with just the local fans. I don't know that this is going to go well.
Are they putting a roof on the stadium? Because I haven't seen
I think so.
I was going to say.
I imagine they have to. Probably retractable.
Especially because it is so bleeping hot out there. Now, the one thing I'll say, and this doesn't bode well for the Oakland Athletics unless they decide to, have a change of heart, but I watched that Vegas season, and I always thought it was just, people from out of town that were going. And I specifically remember that first season being at one of those games and asking fans, and they said, no, yeah, we're season ticket holders. We live in Vegas. But the only way you get that is if the owner's willing to spend money.
Yeah, you have to be good.
You have to be good, and you have to spend to be a quality opponent. If the Oakland Athletics, because as a free agent, that's where I want to go.
Sure.
But if you have to spend buku loads of money.
And they're not going to.
And then that's why this will fail.
Yeah, they're not going to. It's the same ownership group.
Yeah.
They're not changing. This is, what's his face, Fisher.
But aren't you bringing in more money now that you're in Vegas?
No,
he's
actually a smaller
spending
market.
a crap ton of money.
It's a smaller market to move to Las Vegas. This will be the smallest TV market in Major League Baseball. Yeah. Smaller than Milwaukee. And we always talk about how, hey, Milwaukee, it's really tough to sustain a winner because it's difficult to sustain that high-level payroll. This is going to be closer to, Tampa Bay than it is, any other situation that you want to talk about across Major League Baseball. Now, they do have the location. Las Vegas matters, man. Being there is a destination for people. Like, people will go to Los Angeles when the Cardinals play in LA because it's cool to go to LA. It's cool to go to Dodger Stadium. That's a destination for people to go to attend. I think that will be there to an extent with Las Vegas, but it's only there for a couple of nights a week. People will go out there on a Friday or Saturday game because you can build a weekend around it. I don't know how often you're going to see that. Like, if the Cardinals 3 years from now, as this is officially approved and you got all the stadium going on, whatever, 3, 4, 5 years from now, if they go out to Las Vegas and they have, let's call it 2 series out there over the course of the season, and one of them is like a Tuesday to Thursday series, and the other is a Friday to Sunday series, maybe you'll see Cardinals fans that go out there for the Friday weekend series. The other one, are you going to see a bunch of Cardinals fans flying out there in droves to go out there to the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night game?
I'd love to, but I don't have enough vacation days.
In Las Vegas, I just don't see that. So I'm worried that this is going to end up being a situation where they go from what is obviously a bad situation in Oakland. We can all agree on that. To what is a slightly less bad situation in Las Vegas, but still a bad situation. I don't think this is something that we're going to see the end of. I'm a little worried that this is going to be them spending $1 billion to relocate, and then we get there and everybody's like, ooh, boy, team stinks. Not a great fan base here that is local, and people aren't coming out from their local cities the way that we anticipated.
Well, then that's going to be a huge blemish on the ownership then. And it already has been, I understand that. But teams thrive in Vegas as long as you're making them competitive, especially one that's there for a full season. That's not football, like you said, where you're traveling so inconsistent and it's one game a week. I mean, if you do it right, the team will be successful. But if you're not going to spend money, then you shouldn't have even freaking gone there. You should have gone to a smaller market where you could have been a subpar team.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting about it is I wonder if they will, because like the NHL, I thought the NHL would really struggle in Vegas because it's not a national sport. Like the Raiders succeeding in Vegas isn't all that shocking to me because it's a national brand. It's the National Football League. And Oakland has a massive fan base out on the West Coast because they've been in 3 freaking cities. I was genuinely surprised to see that the Golden Knights were able to have success and could maintain that success. Now, I do think winning played a massive role in that. Like, that team doesn't get to the Stanley Cup, and they are bad for the first 3 to 5 years they're there. I don't know if you're seeing the same success. So that's where I think it is going to be interesting. But to your guys' point, like, who's going to go out there to watch a 110 pace Las Vegas A's team?
No, you call them Oakland.
On a weekday when maybe your team's just like a 500 team. Are you really going to go out to Vegas, burn vacation days to do it? Maybe you will. I don't know. I personally wouldn't.
Maybe year one.
Year one.
To see the newness of it all, right?
Yeah, and not even year one. You're probably going to wait till year 3 or 4 when the stadium's up there because they're going to be playing at a AAA ballpark originally. So, yeah, I don't know how this is going to work out for baseball. I think you do have to spend money. You do have to be competitive. And I just don't see that happening because it is the same ownership
Well, the
group.
good news for Oakland, or for the Athletics, is that there's nothing to do in Vegas in the daytime.
Yeah.
So,
True.
day baseball, like, what else are you going to be doing?
Somebody on the text line said, BK, you're foolish if you think that the Oakland A's owner isn't going to move the team to Las Vegas, the betting capital of the world, and not invest money into the team because because of what he did in Oakland. He basically learned from the Stan Kroenke playbook. Okay. I don't believe that. I don't think that Fisher is going to invest in his team.
Yeah.
If he does, cool, good on him, I guess. I mean, I would have rather him just seen him do that while he was out in Oakland, but this is not the only team that he owns. The other teams that he owns also don't spend any money.
Like who?
The Earthquakes, is that what they are? The San Jose Earthquakes out there? They don't spend any money
He
either.
owns them?
Yeah. So
Well,
I don't
they really don't
anticipate
spend money.
him doing anything different than what he's been doing previously. He's going to expect this team to go out to Las Vegas and hopefully make some money. And if not, cool. I've got at least this like really good piece of property that I own that is in a more advantageous situation for me. It's got a new stadium. Somebody else asked on the text line, do you guys think that they should change their name and rebrand from the Oakland Athletics after moving? Probably. They probably will. The thing that's tough, though, is like this is a historic team. This is a team that is based in rich history. And I know they've moved. I think this is the 4th time that they've relocated. But, man, it's going to be weird to not have the Athletics as a part of Major League Baseball. Like, their logo is one of the most iconic logos in all of sports.
Yeah, well, and especially because the storylines with some of the historic seasons that they've had. But I think you have to change the name because otherwise you keep doing what we just did like 18 times already today. Oakland Athletics, Oakland Athletics, and people are going to be doing that all the time with the Athletics.
Yeah, to the text though on the, I think he would spend when he gets to Vegas. The difference, because it is the same playbook that Kroenke used to get the team to L.A. The difference is he's required to spend X amount of dollars because of a cap in the National Football League. In Major League Baseball, like he could truly pay every player on his roster league minimum and not have to worry about any consequences. There is no floor in Major League Baseball. It's why we were just screaming from the mountaintops when there was that latest labor dispute. Major League Baseball needs to add in a cap system. That way you force these bottom feeders to come up to a certain level, and he'll never spend the money on that team. He'll just profit. He'll just profit like he did when he was in Oakland.
So did you guys see the other news in baseball?
There's more news in baseball?
Yeah.
The Cardinals signed Yamamoto. I did see that.
No. That's not happening.
We were having lunch. They were Newt's having lunch with his mom or something.
And they're all talking with each other.
According to Jeff Passan of ESPN.com, Major League Baseball's competition committee is weighing a proposal. It would reduce the pitch clock with runners on base from 20 seconds to 18 seconds this season. You know why, Alex? Because they saw a late season trend that bothered them. The average time of game increased by 7 whole minutes late in this season. 7 minutes. Now, that definitely had nothing to do with the expanded rosters and there being more relievers available and more pitching changes that took place. No. It had to do with the pitch clock not quite being short enough while there were runners on base and these pitchers taking their damn time. So what we need to do, Alex, cut that by 2 seconds.
Yeah.
2 seconds with the runners on base. This is going to fix all of our problems. It certainly will not anger the players at all who already had issues with the pitch clock, especially with runners on base. I thought if there was anything, maybe they increase the pitch clock a little bit, like make it a little longer, because it seemed there were moments when it kind of moved a little quick for some of these pitchers. Instead, they're going to do the opposite. They're going to push the pace even further. I don't feel this is necessary. I never once watched a game last year and thought to myself, what if we got a little more of the pedal to the metal? I don't feel that way at all. I thought it was fine.
This feels
it was great, actually. It was a legitimately great rule change that had all of the intended consequences.
This feels like when you play some made-up game with your, 5-year-old cousin and he keeps making up rules, and then there's more rules, and then there's more rules to, sway it in the direction that he wants it to be. Rob Manfred is that 5-year-old cousin where he's like, 7 minutes? Yeah, let's take 2 seconds off the pitch clock. And then when it goes up 5 minutes next year, all right, we'll drop it down to a second. Pitchers should prepare in about 10 years. It'll be 3 seconds in between pitches.
I thought the games felt long in September just because the Cardinals were bad, but maybe they were onto something here at the Major League Baseball headquarters.
Well, maybe it'll make the Cardinals less bad if they
I don't think
decrease the pitch clock.
But no, I find it interesting that they felt like this was a major need, because I felt at times that games were going too fast. Because I went to a game this year, and I think it was right at 2 hours, and I was, did I get my money's worth here? This was too quick for my liking, and I don't know what to do. I'm not supposed to go home till 10 o'clock, and it's 9.
Oh, I loved it.
The first game that I went to, I left. It was I think it was a 6:30 start time for that one, and I think we left by 9 o'clock. I was home before 10 o'clock. I live in St. Charles, so it was 30-40 minute drive back home, and I was home ready to get my nighttime routine started before 10 o'clock. Dude, under the old rules, I would barely be leaving. I might be leaving at 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I was in bed by 9:30.
I'm not trying to say I hate the pitch clock, because I did love it, but I did feel like at times some games went by way too fast. And now you're going to add on, even cut the time when runners are on base. I don't know. It just feels like a little too much for my liking.
I loved it. I get to go to bed by 9:15. Hey,
Alex,
if we want to dip,
why do we need to add seconds when runners on base? Come on.
Yeah, no, I think we should dip this to 10-second pitch clock so that we get done by 8 o'clock.
See, somebody on the text line has exactly what we did our next time out. Go to patios for an hour of entertainment, and then everything goes up. We just went over to Ballpark Village after the game. The second game we went to, we were like, we can get out of here at a normal time. We can go over to Ballpark Village for a little bit after the game is over. Still end up getting home the same time that we normally would have if we had just gone to the baseball game. So, for the DeWitts, this is a great rule change, because now I'm going over and spending even more money over at Ballpark Village.
Don't do that. Go get Ted Drew's famous frozen custard and then go home and go to bed early. Your stomach's full with fantastic custard, and then you go to bed
just goes
sleep.
over to Mima's. He goes
Love
over
that
to
shit.
his-
Goes get
to his
some
meatballs
soup
afterwards.
You go get some soup.
Some more milk. Milk.
Milk. Milk. Hey, Mimo, you got any milk in there? Some what? Some milk.
For those of you that are wondering, no, we are not
Milk.
Timothy Michael McKernan and Little Pills.
Little pill. Did you call them pills?
Yeah, Little Pills. Little Piddles.
Well, we do have little.
You gonna be mad? Gonna be upset? Gonna be happy? What's the reaction gonna be here in St.
Yes.
Louis? We'll get to it next year on 101 ESPN. How you gonna feel if the Cubs are the destination for Shohei Ohtani? Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. This is normally the balloon party. It's an extended edition of BK and Ferrario here today. Tim McKernan is off for one of his 675 vacation days that he gets on an annual basis.
He'll be back tomorrow, though.
So earlier today, Jesse Rogers, he's not going to be here tomorrow. We will not be here either, though. We ain't going to be here. That'll be the morning show that's taking over for this hour of radio. So Jesse Rogers had a piece earlier today, Alex, on Shohei Ohtani's free agency and where he's likely to go. And the truth is, man, ain't nobody know where Shohei Ohtani's going. Everybody's basically saying the same thing. Hey, we hope he picks us. Hope he picks us. And nobody really knows why he's going to pick a team, what's going to lead him to that team, what the money is going to be when he chooses that team. But everybody wants Shohei Ohtani, obviously. We're talking about modern day Babe Ruth. Turns out that's a pretty big piece to bring to your team. The Cubs are one of the teams that is going hard after Shohei Ohtani. They were in the sweepstakes the first time around. He ended up, of course, choosing the LA Angels. Alex, if this is where he ends up, if he goes to Chicago and says, you know what, I want to be a Cub. I want to play for Craig Counsell. That is my dream, is I've just always wanted to play for Craig Counsell.
Low blow for Milwaukee.
And I really love deep dish pizza. That's what I want.
That's not going to be something he says.
What do you think the reaction is going to be here in St. Louis?
Hold on, let me channel my inner Cardinal fan. I can't believe it. He chose the Cubs, and then the Cardinals aren't even doing anything. At least that ownership group is willing to spend money while ours sits on his hands.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
9 out of 10?
6 out of 10.
What?
Wow.
I thought you were Tim McKernan.
Well, that was obvious, but I thought my tone was spot on with this one.
Yeah, I thought that was better.
Yeah,
I thought that was a 9 out of 10.
But that's exactly what it's going to be. It's the Cubs are willing to spend money. The Cardinals are not. Prototypical. They're once again the ugly stepchild in that family of the NL Central.
Feels right.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be what the reaction would be if Ohtani does choose the Chicago Cubs. I think a lot of fans will look at it either twofold. One, okay, now that Ohtani has signed, you really got to go out there and you got to get two guys that are in that top tier. You got to go out and truly spend on the starting pitching market. Or if the Cardinals sign, say they get that second tier starter first, like we've always said, it feels like Sonny Gray's the first guy that they will target. They will get him signed before they then figure out what they're going to do with the number one. Then fans will go, if that happens first, oh my gosh, the Cardinals didn't want to spend money. Look, they got Sonny Gray to be the number one, and then they'll hit the panic button. So either way, Ohtani becomes a Cub, the panic button will be smashed, and then that seat just really catches more fire underneath Mo.
Somebody on the text line said the Cubs always go through these cycles. They overspend, and then they never learn their lesson. I think the Cubs are going through the cycle that every team other than like 5 of them go through. Like the Cubs go through the, hey, we're peaking. Oh, here we go. Like it's a roller coaster that goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And there's like 5-year stretches where they're up and 5-year stretches where they're down. And then 5 years, it goes over and over again. The difference between the way that they operate and the way that the Cardinals operate, for example, and you guys know this, is that the Cardinals don't have those lean years, but they also don't really have the peak years. Like since the 2013 season, it's kind of been this. It's just been phew, and then this year was phew. We were doing a nosedive. Here we go. Hopefully you were buckled into your seat because that did not go the way that anybody anticipated. But that's kind of the way these two teams operate. Like I am a firm believer that teams are always seeking the last team that won. They're always trying to recreate whatever it was that they saw that worked in their market, right? So Alex, for the Blues, when they won in 2019, they were big, they were strong, they were physical, they imposed their will on opposing teams. So for fans, for the organizations, that's what they think about when they think, what does Blues hockey look like? Well, the team that won it for us was this, and therefore that is Blues hockey.
It's the only way they can play.
We're going to try to recreate that every time that we try to recreate a winner, because that's what winning looks like here. When you think about the Cardinals, what does it look like to be a winner? Well, when I think about a Cardinals team that won, I think about 2011. They had a lot of depth, right? They had a starting pitcher at the front end that they really believed in, and then they pieced things together. They had a manager that was the star of the team. They had an all-time great player that you could count on in the clutch. Like, that's what it looks like. And so every time now that you look back, you're thinking to yourself, okay, the Cardinals winning looks like that. That is what they need to recreate in the future. Otherwise, they can't win. The Cubs is a very different model. The Cubs have only won once in everybody's lifetime that exists that is a Cubs fan. When they won, they had a star-level manager. So what do? Let's bring in Craig Counsell. We're ready to win, and this guy is going to be the one that wins it for us. What else did they do? Well, they go out and get other star-level talents while building around position players that were homegrown. All right, the position players that were homegrown are starting to come through their system now. Now it's time to go land a star free agent. Specifically, a star free agent pitcher. This time around, instead of being John Lester, they're going to go out there and potentially get a guy like Shohei Ohtani. If they don't get him, they're probably going to be in on Yamamoto. If they don't get Yamamoto, they're probably going to be in on Snell and Nola and all of these other top guys that are out there. I firmly believe that the Cubs are chasing what they had in 2016, and that's going to lead them to spend what we may consider to be stupid money. But hey, man, it worked for them the first time, and I don't blame them for going out there and doing it a second time.
Sorry, I touched my microphone, and apparently it all blew up. Is it weird to say that part of it is because I just know it's not going to happen? But the other part of it is that, like, I'm not that intrigued in having Shohei Ohtani because he's not pitching this year. And as much as I would love to have that evolutionary player, he's not affecting my team right now. So the Cubs, like, yeah, you bring him in and the guy's going to hit probably 40 bombs for you like he typically does. But I kind of need a pitcher on this team right now. If they had a Shohei Ohtani who was pitching, I'd be a lot more upset about it if he signed like with the Cubs and not my team.
Like Yamamoto?
Yeah, like Yamamoto. But hey,
Would it hurt more if they signed Yamamoto or Shohei?
Yeah. Yamamoto would piss me off more.
I would probably say Yamamoto because I think most Cardinals fans are at the same spot as Alex, where it's like, man, wouldn't it be cool to see Shohei? But they also know it's just not going to happen. He's not in the equation of what the Cardinals need. So I think it would be more. I think it would piss Cardinal fans off more if it was Yamamoto or Nola that ended up becoming a Chicago Cub, because those are the top two targets that we've always kind of circled.
Sonny Gray, too, would.
I don't think it would.
I was going to say, I get the vibe from the text line. I don't think it would make him upset.
I don't think Cardinals fans really care where Sonny Gray goes.
I get the sense Randy,
watch him sign with the Braves and Cardinals fans get really pissed off.
I get the sense Randy would, like, drive Sonny up to Chicago and then, like, roll out the carpet
Randy's
for him
different.
to Wrigley Field.
Who is on that list? If the Cardinals, let's say Blake Snell, Aaron Nola ends up going back to the Phillies. If Blake Snell is the one that ends up going to the Cubs, does that one hurt?
I mean, it hurt me. I don't think it would hurt Cardinals fans.
I don't think it would really hurt me that much.
Because I don't think Cardinals fans want Snell on his 5 walks per 9.
And as good as he's going to be in the first couple of years, when he combusts in Chicago, I'll be like, yeah, good, I didn't get that.
You know what would be amazing is if they signed Aaron Nola and traded for Dylan Cease or Logan Gilbert.
Oh, yeah. Oh, if they got Logan Gilbert, oh, yeah, that would kill me. Because you've got better pieces to trade than the Cubs do.
I don't know, man. The Cubs have, like, really good up-and-coming young players right now. And they've got infield depth like the Cardinals
They don't have Nolan Gorman.
They don't, but they've got some other dudes that are pretty damn good, and if they're willing to put them into a package, I don't know what the White Sox are looking for. So
I was talking Logan Gilbert.
Either way.
I think you could get
White Sox or the Mariners.
Yeah. I think Dylan Cease is going to give it up easier.
I can now see it.
They're going to trade for both.
Yamamoto's going to be a Cub, and they're going to trade for Logan Gilbert. And then even the Reds are going to come out of left field and surprise everybody.
Dylan Cease.
And get Dylan Cease and sign like Aaron Nola.
They'll get like Jonathan India will be a White Sox.
And Milwaukee goes the other direction too and just says, yeah, we'll sign Sonny Gray.
Encarnacion Strand will go over to the White Sox, and then they're going to end up with Dylan Cease. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Mo's going to go, whoa, I didn't see this coming.
Time to get the snorkeling gear.
We can all agree, by the way, Yamamoto, that ain't happening here in St. Louis.
No. His mom is still, there's still a chance. Mrs. Nootbaar and Mrs. Yamamoto still talk with each other. There's always a chance.
Well,
according to a report that came out yesterday in New York, the Mets are very interested in Yamamoto. He is also intrigued, according to this report, by the prestige of the Yankees. There was another report that said that he is very intrigued by playing on the West Coast, so who knows what the truth is.
Isn't his agent the same agent as Giancarlo Stanton?
Yeah, and also the same agent as Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, so I can tell you he's not going to the Yankees. I think his agent's probably saying, maybe let's look elsewhere these days.
No, that's fair.
it's just like brute honesty, maybe,
Well, we got honesty in St. Louis.
Do we?
Did we?
I was told we were getting 3 starters and 2 bullpen arms.
That's honesty.
The only thing I heard at the GM meetings was, boop, boop, boop. 2 starters and a swingman now.
Coming up next. I think tonight's game is probably going to end up determining the AFC North. And I can't tell you how much I hate that it's being played on a Thursday night. We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN.
Darren Hendrickson here with a SportsCenter update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the San Jose Sharks, and we'll have pregame coverage starting at 8:30 tonight with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Gerber for Puck Drop at 9:30. This SportsCenter update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your road shop 24/7 at londoff.com, londoffautoPlex.com. Are you kidding me?
The AFC North might be determined tonight, and it's taking place on a Thursday night football game. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You've got an extended version of BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, in general, I hate Thursday night football. I understand why they do it. It's a moneymaker, right? They got Amazon Prime that paid all of this money to bring NFL action to their product on Thursday night, so that way we all have to buy Prime, if you didn't already, to watch this game. I get it. It makes sense to me. But Thursday night games in general are terrible. The product is not as good. The players haven't been rested as well. And it just ends up being, for the most part, pretty terrible football. Don't believe me? Just ask Al Michaels. He's been miserable for 2 years in the booth.
I just don't know why you're trying to take good games away from Al Michaels' career.
I just want him to put this on like a Sunday. Or hell, after the college football season is over, put it on a Saturday. That's fine by me. I think there should be a way to flex out of Thursday night football. I actually think that we should do the opposite of what Al Michaels is hoping. If they have a good game, we should be able to flex it to Sunday at 3 o'clock. Take one of the terrible Sunday games, give it to Al Michaels. I don't need to see Kirk Herbstreit analyzing this game tonight. I just don't need it.
Truth.
He's not good at it, man. He's really good on the college football side. It's not going well for him on the NFL side of things. I don't blame him. It's a hard job to do if it's your exclusive focus. My dude is out here traveling to an NFL game on a Friday. He's going out to wherever the college is on a Thursday. College is on Thursday, then does the college game day on Saturday morning, then flies to his game on Saturday afternoon for the evening. That's not an easy gig. I hate that this potential game that is going to decide the AFC North is being played on Thursday night football, where good football goes to die, Alex.
I mean, I don't mind it on Thursday night football because it gives me football sooner in the week. And frankly, I'd prefer good football over watching the trash games that we've seen on Thursday night. I understand what you're saying about not wanting it to be decided or deciding the division game. But, like, I also don't want that game to be
Steelers-Browns in this slot.
No, I don't want to watch that garbage.
Flip them.
That is how Al Michaels doesn't make it to the next year. You put that trash in the game.
Fine, they can have Giants and Commanders.
No, would you be quiet over there?
Give me at least something feasible
Cowboys,
to
Panthers?
watch. No, I don't want to watch Bryce Young on Thursday night football.
Here you go. This will be a fun one. It won't determine anything meaningful, but it's fun for everybody to watch. Cardinals versus Texans.
No.
That's a perfect Thursday night football game. It's compelling, but doesn't matter.
No. I would prefer something that has some substance to it, and that's at least what this is tonight.
Somebody on the text line said, I completely disagree with this. Why don't you like the primetime game? Would you rather have this game mixed in with a bunch of crap Sunday games? No.
That's where I don't want it. I don't want it at a 12 or a 3 o'clock kickoff.
Put it in the 3:25 time slot. Here's what we have this weekend at 3 o'clock.
All right, let's see.
Bucks 49ers.
That's a solid.
I'm fine with a 3 o'clock game for that.
You glued into that one?
Maybe.
I'll watch it.
Depending on what else is
Shaky
here.
Bakey going up against our guy, Brock Purdy?
Shaky Bakey's been less shaky this year.
Okay. Jets Bills. You locked into that one? I am, because I've got the Jets to win the division. What about you guys?
I mean, the Jets could definitely beat them.
And you know what? I'd be fine that as a Thursday night game.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good game.
Flip them.
No.
This game should not be in a Sunday afternoon
And T-Bone's
slate.
not allowed to answer this one.
Oh, yeah. Well, we know where this one's going.
Seahawks Rams.
That's a good
That's
football
actually
game,
a good
too.
football game.
No, it's not,
It's a good
man.
division contest. It's the same crap we're going to be watching tonight with Ravens and Bengals.
Same crap. These two teams are two of the
Bengals are 5-4. They're the worst team in the AFC North. It's in front of you.
You don't believe
The
that.
Steelers are better than the Bengals right now, according to the record.
If they played on a neutral field, the Bengals would be favored by like 6 points in that game.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is
They had
Rams
a quarterback that was playing out there on one
Rams
leg for
are
the
in
first.
third place in their division, and the Bengals are at the bottom of their division. Technically, they're putting the crap game on Thursday night football.
Yeah. What's your retort, Brandon?
BK, you forget that unless you have Sunday ticket living in this market, we would never see Bengals Ravens because it would be broadcast here, so it's perfect for a Thursday night. No, that's why you put it at 3 o'clock. You take the Jets versus the Bills game out of there. You put the Bengals versus the Ravens game in, and we flex it into a nationally relevant spot. Was it last week? 2 weeks ago. We had the perfect setup on a Sunday. You had 4 games that mattered. You know when they were played? 8 o'clock, noon, 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
No, see, there was a problem. That 8 a.m. start was too early for my weekend.
That was perfect. Amen. If we could just do that where we balance out the games over the course of a Sunday, we can all just agree, hey, most of the games that are going to be played today are going to suck. We acknowledge that up front. But the ones that you see in the national TV relevant games, those ones are going to be awesome. Let's do that. Let's just all agree that we're going to do that, and don't play your best games on Thursdays. If you want to put it on Monday, cool. You want to put it on Sunday, great. You want to put it Sunday night?
BK doesn't want you to have fun on a Thursday.
BK doesn't want you to look forward to a game for football earlier than the weekend.
It works out perfect. I'm supposed to enjoy an NFL game on Thursday. I'm supposed to then enjoy a high school game on Friday, then the college shade on Saturday.
And you're going to watch no matter what the game is tonight. Because you know why? Because the football is going to be crap no matter what.
I did not watch
Thursday
Bears
night
Panthers.
Football.
That was terrible.
I didn't either, actually.
The quality of these games is always terrible. You're going to be something. You're going to see something tonight where you're like,
the quality I'm going to see tonight is 5 times better than what I will see from the Panthers and Bears on a normal Sunday.
But the quality of this game, if it were played on Sunday as opposed to a Thursday, would be better.
All I hear is the world's smallest violin.
Who cares about rest? They suck no matter what, man.
Oh, come on.
You put bad teams on Thursday, the rest affects them. These two teams should be a little bit more competent.
BK is the guy that when we talk about the Blues and we go, man, they're like now, they're going on what?
Yeah.
Long West Coast. We go, man, maybe they're just getting tired. I don't want to hear about them being tired. But then in football, he goes, no.
Back-to-back games on the West Coast, and they got to go from one place to the other. I don't care. You're a professional player. You should be ready to go no matter what.
Somebody said, BK, are you more upset that a Thursday night game, that it's on Thursday night, or the fact that Thursday night games are on Prime? It sounds like your issue is actually with Prime. I have no issue with them being on Prime. None whatsoever.
I'd like a better partner for Al Michaels.
To fair. I don't have an issue, though, with the fact that it's on Prime TV. I think the Prime broadcast is the actual presentation of it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Talk about Kirk. The presentation of it is fine. I have no issue with it whatsoever.
I think they need a whole new crew.
I do not like that the best game this week, other than Chiefs versus Eagles, which is going to be spectacular, and that's on Monday Night Football, which is what
you got to complain?
No,
they're too rested. Too rested.
Tell you what, teams coming off of a bye and playing on Monday.
How'd that bye work out for the Jacksonville Jaguars that had proper rest? On a Sunday.
Yeah, I know. It's fine. They're a trash team. The Bengals and the Ravens are not. Anyways, who do you guys like in this game?
I actually
like the Ravens by 3.5.
I like the Bengals covering that.
Yeah.
I think that short rest is going to at least impact something, but I like the Bengals.
The Ravens always seem to give the Bengals some issues. Even last year in the playoffs when they were playing with their backup quarterback, that game, if you guys remember, I mean, it came down to a fumble.
Let me guess, it was a Lamar Jackson fumble.
The Ravens last year during the regular season beat the Bengals first time around, lost to them second time around, and then it was a close game the third time that they played. But the last 2 games, it was basically backups that were playing. And then the year prior, this year, they already beat them earlier this season. So I don't like it because I like the Bengals. I think they are the best team in that division, despite the record, Alex. I think the Ravens are going to win this one. I've got a feeling that they're going to win this one. I like it by 3, though, so I wouldn't touch the line.
Are you upset?
I'll take the under.
They're on Thursdays because you typically have plans on Thursday nights?
No.
And it interferes with your life?
I have a 4-month-old baby boy. I don't have plans on Thursday nights. No. I have nothing going on whatsoever.
You're pretty angry about people that just want to see good hockey.
Good hockey, huh?
Football, sorry. Hockey on the brain.
You know what? That's actually what it is. My take really is that the Blues versus the Sharks should get precedent.
Well, they will because the Monday Night Football game will be over by the time puck drop happens, which is why I'd like to watch a competent game leading up to it.
Coming up next. So we all agree that bowl games in general don't matter anymore. But I was asked a question yesterday by Anthony Stalter about what it would mean for Mizzou if they end up in a New Year's Six bowl. And I thought to myself, I don't know if it really matters if they get that. It matters to me, but big picture-wise, does it really change anything for the program? It used to be that the answer felt like it was yes. Is that still the case? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Side Alex and T-Bone on BK coming up in about 10 minutes or so. We'll start our actual show. Will we start on time today? That's the real question. Will we start on time?
Well,
For how much you complain about us not starting on time, that's up to you, my friend.
and we're never on clock, I can confirm by the guy that runs the clock right here. So, no, we will not start on time.
That's true. I mean, you got about 5 minutes to make sure we hit the break.
Well, if I was Tim, we've got 8.5.
Oh, if you were Tim, this is our second segment.
We've got until
Just triple.
11:02. We'll get out it, but
Just triple break here, guys.
we don't have his live read afterwards today. So we've actually got until about 11:02 for us to continue going.
And we
with
don't
our
have to worry about the
content.
Piddle 6-shooter.
Well, that's unfortunate, actually. We asked T-Bone if he would come up with one today, and he said no. So, I don't know.
Probably because he doesn't think he's good enough.
Yeah, I would say that's a shot at Piddles, but it's cool. Whatever
You
you want.
can write
Disrespectful.
my agency, and they will deal with the
You
complaints.
got an agent now.
Is your agency Mima Incorporated?
Yeah. She'll deal with the complaints.
That checks out.
If she can answer the phone.
So yesterday, I was filling in on the fast lane, and Anthony Stalter asked me a question. And at first, when I heard it, I was like, well, of course it matters. But then I thought about it more, and I don't really know that it does. So, Alex, if Mizzou wins out the rest of the year, they beat Florida, and then they beat Arkansas. They'll be 10-2 on the year, and given their current ranking as the number 9 team in the college football playoff, they will almost certainly be guaranteed a spot in a New Year's Six Access Bowl. Now, those 3 bowls this year are the Fiesta Bowl down in Glendale, Arizona, the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, and the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. 3 excellent bowls, and you'll be going up against legit big-time programs, unless you get paired with Tulane, in which case, you play against Tulane.
They're top 25 team the last 2 years, sir.
Shots fired at Tulane.
They're a really good team, but it doesn't have the same name recognition. Like, it doesn't have the gravitas of Mizzou playing against, like, Penn State
They'll kick
or
Mizzou's
Washington.
ass, so
They
you're
might.
gonna-
They're
you're
a
gonna
really
learn.
good team.
You're going to learn today.
There's just not the same amount of, name recognition, national appeal, etc. of Mizzou going up against Tulane
Probably
versus
afraid of them.
Mizzou
Just like
going
they
up
were
against
Kansas last year.
Texas. A little different. Alex, I don't know that there's a big difference, though, of Mizzou going to a New Year's Six Bowl compared to Mizzou playing in the Citrus Bowl, for example. Like, would I prefer the New Year's Six? Would it be awesome to do that? Of course. But people bring up, like, when they ask, hey, which one would you like to see Mizzou go to? Some people will say, well, I want to see them in the Peach Bowl because of recruiting, because Mizzou recruits in the Atlanta area, and so that helps. I actually don't know that that's true. I don't think it has a significant effect on recruiting. Yeah, it helps for Mizzou to go to one of these bigger bowls because it's something you can sell to recruits. I don't know that you actually really sell it to recruits in any meaningful way. You'll sell them that you're good. That helps. Like, them seeing that you won 10 games, that you beat the crap out of Tennessee on CBS, that definitely is a significant piece of your recruiting pitch. Does it really matter if you play it in Atlanta, Dallas, or Glendale versus going down to Orlando and playing in the Citrus Bowl? I don't think so. I guess my question is this. Do the bowl games matter at all anymore? Like, I know that they don't matter as much as they used to, but do they matter at all outside of the college football playoff?
I mean, I think they matter in terms of measuring the success that you've had in the season, because if you get a New Year's Six Bowl, like, yeah, you could sit there and say, we were a great team because we got one of these high-profile bowl games. In terms of the actual game, I don't think it matters. Because the other team's not, like, it matters for Mizzou because I don't see anybody just sitting out of that Mizzou game or from the Mizzou side because they want to be draft eligible and ready and don't want injuries to take place. But if you take on Washington or if you take on one of these other teams that actually has legit draft prospects, it doesn't matter because the other team's not putting their full team on the field. How many times do we go into those bowl games? It's like, yep, 6 of the top players on whatchamacallit aren't even showing up for this game because they don't want to get injured.
And
which
I feel
get.
like that happens less in the New Year's Six Bowls than it does in some of these other, like, you don't even remember the names of them bowls, but it does still exist even when you get into those New Year's Day bowls.
But it just takes away from it because you could sit there and say, like, hey, we got to the Peach Bowl and we won this year. But, yeah, you played against Washington and they didn't have their quarterback or any of their weapons that they typically have play in that game.
Yeah, I'll say I agree with you because a lot of guys do sit out. I don't think these bowls mean anything. I don't think you get a New Year's Six Bowl. I don't think it changes anything for the Missouri Tigers. They're still going to do their best to recruit in-state, and they're going to use the NIL law to their advantage. And maybe NIL has helped with this, too. That kind of devalues the bowls because now it's I mean, this was the case either way. Now it's just more public of paying guys to come to your school. Like, I don't think there is anything that deals with a bowl. Like, you're not going to a recruit and your first message is, hey, did you see us in that New Year's Six Bowl? No, it's, hey, we love you here. We think you can help us get to the next step. Offensively, we can draw all this up for you. You're going to get the ball a ton. Oh, by the way, here's this $1 million. If you sign this piece of paper, you're going to get this right now. Like, that's the conversation. It is not, hey, we made a New Year's Six Bowl.
We got to the Cotton Bowl. Like, I don't even know if that appeals to kids anymore.
Like I don't have interest in watching the New Year's Six
It
anymore.
used to be a big deal, the Cotton Bowl.
If you could have said, 15 years ago, Mizzou wouldn't have been a part of this because it's Pac-12 versus Big Ten, but bear with me. Like, if you say, hey, we're going to the Rose Bowl, that used to matter. Like, that was a big deal.
Huge for
it was
Illinois.
a really big deal to be able to say, we are playing in the granddaddy of them all. I don't know that it matters anymore. Now, if you get to the college football playoff, that's different. Then you sell something that is like the most meaningful of all things. But to go to Cotton, Fiesta, Peach, Citrus, I don't even know that most kids would have been able to tell you which one of those four isn't the Access 6 Bowl. They would have been like, oh, yeah, like those are all really good bowls, right? The truth is one of them is not in this New Year's Six. The others are. So I don't know. It's a really big deal. This is not me trying to put down how cool it is that Mizzou is like basically guaranteed if they went out to go to one of these bowls. For fans, it absolutely matters because it almost like reaffirms what you were able to accomplish this season. That you'll be ranked probably in the top 7 or 8, depending on what happens in front of you by the end of the regular season, and then you'll be able to go to one of these bowl games that it does technically matter. But if you're thinking like big picture, what does this mean for the program? That is where I would be more skeptical of. I don't know that it really changes anything.
Does it matter for fans? Maybe this is just old man screams at clouds here, but like I
think so. I think as a Mizzou fan, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to go to one of these bowl games.
I think it's very important.
I think it's cool, but like, do you care? Like, you don't care about the result of the game. You don't.
I care about the game. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool if you. I do think it matters with the matchup. Like if you get paired with Tulane. This is not a shot against Tulane, but it's just the reality of what college football is. Like, beating Tulane doesn't have the same significance or excitement as beating a team like Texas or Oregon or Washington or Alabama or even like a Penn State or Oklahoma. Beating one of those teams that I just mentioned that has national relevance on a year-in, year-out basis, that would be a pretty big deal. Beating Tulane, I don't know that it does really a whole lot.
I guess it depends on if they're like you just mentioned Penn State. They're going to have NFL guys. Those NFL guys say, "No, I'm not playing in that," because again, the bowl game truly means nothing. If Penn State guys say we're not playing in it, then I don't really care if I'm a Mizzou fan. You know?
Yeah, I think we're looking at it a little bit differently. I don't view it as a meaningful thing of like we beat X, Y, or Z. I view it as a meaningful thing of like, hey, man, you're going to a cool bowl game in a cool location for a cool week, and you're going to be able to play in what is a really fun game on New Year's Day. Like, that's kind of how I view bowl games now. It's essentially an exhibition. It's like a lot of these tournaments that take place around, like, Christmas or Thanksgiving time in college basketball. Do those games really matter in the big picture? No, not at all. Like, if Kansas beats Kentucky or Kentucky beats Kansas, 3 months from now, half of us won't even remember who won that game. We'll just remember that they played, and it was cool that we were able to see that early in the season as what is essentially an exhibition, a non-con game that it's going to help one of their resumes, but it's not going to hurt either of them to have played that. That's kind of how I view the bowl games. Does it matter? No, the result doesn't really matter at all, but it's fun to see some of these, like, high-level programs going up against one another head-to-head, even if some of the kids are sitting out. I think fewer kids, though, sit out than we sometimes make it out to be in the big bowl games. Like, if the Mizzou goes to a New Year's Six Bowl, I think Darius Robinson will probably play. Darius Robinson's going to be like a top 70 pick. Ennis Rakestraw, I think, will probably play. Probably going to be a second-round pick or something like that next year. And if you go up against, like, Washington, I think Michael Penix will play. Because quarterbacks typically are the ones that do end up playing in these bowl games, even though they are technically, quote-unquote, meaningless. So it'll be fun. I don't know that it changes anything for the trajectory of the program, though. What changes the trajectory of the program is that Eli Drinkwitz just proved, potentially, that he can have a spike here. He can have a ceiling season where something meaningful happens at the University of Missouri. All right, coming up next, we're getting to BK and Ferrario late. Who could have seen this coming?
Unbelievable.
Blake Snell was announced yesterday as the National League Cy Young winner. He is now a free agent. He explained what his mindset is as a pitcher, and Alex, this would scare the hell out of me if I'm a potential team that's trying to sign him. Still probably do it, though. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
I'd like to be the first to congratulate Blake Snell on winning the Cy Young this year.
Blake Snell has done it again. When you win your second Cy Young, you kind of been there, done that.
That is the announcement last night on MLB Network alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Blake Snell announced as the National League Cy Young Award winner last night. As we all anticipated, Alex, he has now won the Cy Young in both the American and the National League, joining only 6 other pitchers that have ever been able to accomplish such a feat. Max Scherzer, Roy Halladay, Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, and Gaylord Perry are the only other pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball to win the Cy Young in both the American League and the National League. Pretty impressive company, to say the least. He's now a free agent, and he's going to be able to go wherever he wants that is willing to give him the money that he's looking for. Now, this was a very rare feat because last year he also led the major leagues in walks. His walk percentage, if you're looking at that, Alex, is basically 5 walks per 9 innings. That is not typically the kind of profile that you see for a Cy Young Award winner. Last night, Greg Amsinger asked him about that during his awards and said, hey, you know, you're a guy that does walk a lot of hitters. Why are you able to accomplish that and still be able to win an award like this? And he basically said, paraphrasing here, I'm different. This is the way that I pitch. I don't worry about the walks. I'm going to find a way to pitch through it.
It's like a Sesame Street song.
Greg Amsinger joined the morning show earlier today to discuss what that comment meant for him and what it could potentially mean for his free agent outlook.
The only thing that scares teams away is, and this is being talked about in the industry, is Blake Snell being extremely candid about who he is as a pitcher. And he's not going to try to change anymore. And I love that. But if you're trying to construct a roster, you might think to yourself, Blake Snell is not afraid of walking anyone anymore. And that's why he had such a meteoric rise. He walked more players than anybody in the National League. But his swing and miss stuff means, well, I'm not going to give in on 3 balls and 1 strike to you. I can strike the next guy out. In his mind, the problem is, as you age, your stuff diminishes. If you don't have command and you're okay not having it, are you still going to be able to strike your way out of a bases-loaded one-out situation when you're 35, 36, 37 years old, the end of whatever contract he's going to get?
That's the fear. That is the fear that teams are going to have to come to grips with going into this offseason. And, Alex, it's a fear that I think teams are going to have that will lead a lot of them to other options. It'll lead some of them to, you know what, we like Jordan Montgomery better. Why? Because he's just more of a sure thing. We like Aaron Nola better. Same thing. We like Yamamoto better. We are actually willing to go down to that second tier, and we like Sonny Gray better. Shorter term, a little less risk here. We're going to go that route instead. And so I think the market will be smaller in terms of the number of teams that are willing to give a big-time, long-term contract to Blake Snell than what a lot of people are currently anticipating. And it could lead to him taking, you know, a 5 or 6 year deal worth like $25 to $26 million per year. Something closer to the Carlos Rodon contract than maybe what we're currently expecting. Does that mindset that you just heard there change at all, affect at all the way that you view Blake Snell heading into this offseason?
Yeah,
Alex?
I mean, it does. And Greg Amsinger is absolutely right. Like, if this was a 26-year-old Blake Snell coming off of a Cy Young and saying, I am who I am and I'm not changing who I am, all on board with it because, dude, the best years are ahead of you, and you sticking to who you are means we're going to get a dominant pitcher. But that also doesn't apply to a 30-year-old who's going to be 31 at the start of this new big contract coming off of a Cy Young year where we all know Father Time finds ways to catch up with guys. And if you're not willing to adjust or adapt, and maybe he is once he starts to realize, hey, it's starting pitching or it's bullpen for you.
I don't think he's going to.
I don't think he will either. I think he'll be like, I'm this guy and you don't like me. You're still paying me $25 million a year. That's what worries me. Because if I know the Cardinals, they're always wanting to try and change guys. Hence Wilson Contreras. If you're not willing to be Yachty, well, you could be an outfielder for us. So it does concern me because you've got to get the best out of this guy that you're signing to a big contract, and you've got to get the best out of him for the first 3 years. And maybe Snell provides that. But if it goes wrong and the Cardinals can't work with it, then you're going to be in for a really rough 5-year span of that contract.
You see, I'm not too worried about it, actually. Like, I think it's probably going to be a 5-year deal that he signs. And if he makes less than Nola, then I'm really in, especially if he's getting $30 million over 6 or 7 years. I think if it's a 5-year deal, I'm willing to say, you know what? 3 of those 5 years is going to be really good. The other 2, I don't know. It might be really bad. But 3's better than 2. And I would take those 3 important years because
what if I told you it's 2 years that are really great, 1 year that's really bad, and the other 2 years are just kind of middling?
I'm in.
Cool.
Those years that he's middling, are they in the bullpen?
No, he's
in
a
rotation.
starter. But he's going to give you like 130 innings in the bad year. He's going to give you like 140 to 150 innings in the middling years. And then the 1 or 2 years that he's great, he's going to get you like 180 innings, and kind of similar to this, it'll be like a sub-3 ERA. So it's going to be awesome when he's really good, but it's going to be less than half of the contracts that looks that way.
Yeah, I would sign up for that. And now I would sign up for that, hoping that really great happens like right off the bat. And then in the 3 other years there are in the back end of that deal, and then I kind of can piece it together with free agency additions and the guys that you're developing in Hintz and Roby potentially. But yeah, that didn't change anything for me. In fact, I like that he's willing to say like, yeah, I'm going to do my thing. All right, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Your thing worked. You've won 2 Cy Youngs.
I actually kind of agree with T-Bone. And where I'm coming at on this is what I'm now having to realize. So I think Nola's going to get more than what we anticipated. I think he is probably, somebody's going to be willing to give him the $200 million that he's looking for. Man, I really love Aaron Nola. But if you're telling me I got to pay $200 million for Aaron Nola, or I can get Blake Snell for 130 to 140, ooh, it's really hard for me to say you got to go with Aaron Nola. I'd prefer him, but I don't know if I prefer him that much. $60 million more? I don't know, man. This Blake Snell guy looks pretty good. And while he doesn't give you the same number of innings, if you're looking at ERA, even in his bad seasons, he's actually better in ERA in his bad seasons than Aaron Nola was this year in what was considered to be a pretty solid season for him. So it's hard for me to sit here and say to you, like, yeah, definitely don't go get Blake Snell. That would be a bad decision. I think for the next 3 years, he's going to be pretty good. I have no idea what it looks like in the last 2 years. It might be a disaster. You may have, to Alex's point, a $25 million a year closer. But guess what? Josh Hader's about to get $25 million to be a closer. Yeah. So while it's not what you want, you might have a pretty lockdown dynamite closer for that money for a year or two at the back end of this deal. It's not ideal, but I'm pretty open to the idea of Blake Snell being the top pitcher that the Cardinals signed. I think it would then necessitate you going out and getting an innings eater as the second best pitcher that you acquire. But getting Blake Snell to leave this rotation does not sound like a bad idea to me.
No, and I'm not close-minded. It makes me very nervous, but for $25 million a year over 5 years compared to 30 plus for Aaron Nola, I'd go with the Blake Snell side of things because at least I know that those first 2 years are going to be dominant, but it does force you into the position that you just mentioned. You got to go out there and get another top tier guy to pitch with Blake Snell.
And I said this yesterday when we did the Nothing for Nola, Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yeah, it's a terrible name.
Nola, to me, is not a one. He doesn't strike fear into an opponent. He doesn't feel like a stopper. Snell scares the crap out of me, both as the fan rooting for him and the opposing team. He is that monster. If you win 2 Cy Youngs, you're going to be viewed as an ace. You're going to be viewed as the stopper in a rotation. So, to me, he is a number 1 on the market. And if he's going to get less than the guy that I don't even view as a number 1, absolutely sign me up. I'll deal with whatever those 2 bad years could potentially look like.
The problem is the Cardinals hear what he says, and be like, yeah, no, we're not getting this guy. Because Cardinals will not bring somebody in who is as closed-minded as that says, yeah, I pitch one way, and that's what it's going to be.
Carlos Rodon last year got a 6-year deal worth $162 million. If Blake Snell said, Mo, I'm willing to sign right now if you give me a 6-year deal worth $162 million, are you guys doing it?
I don't know if I'm doing 6 years with him.
And can I assume that Nola is saying I want $200 million?
Correct.
Yeah.
Can I follow up with Blake? What about 5 and 165?
I mean, that's the same contract. I'm just giving you an extra year.
Fine.
You're just spreading the money over an extra year.
Fine, but let's go 5 instead of 6.
I'm in. I'd do it.
I think I would do it.
I know I don't want to do 6 years, but if that's what it takes to get them done, I'm okay with going, all right, hopefully 3 good years, 1 bad, and 2 average. That's the whole conversation they're having with every starting pitcher. Yeah. Like Aaron Nola, as much as everybody goes, oh, an innings eater. Okay, but as BK just mentioned, Blake Snell's worst year ERA-wise was still better than Aaron Nola was this year. And he's been bad 2 of the last 3 years in terms of his ERA being in the
You're only
fours.
getting like 130, 140 innings out of him.
Yeah.
I don't care.
You going to make it up on the other side?
I mean,
That's why you have to get the third starter.
yeah.
If you sign Blake Snell, I do think it necessitates 2 things. One, you got to get more of an innings eater to be that number 2. And you also need to then add another guy that can cover 100 innings for you, like Nick Martinez. I don't think it has to be a stud, but you got to get a guy that can make 15 starts for you next year, because you're going to piece together some of this with Martinez as a long reliever / starter. Zach Thompson, long reliever / starter. Matthew Liberatore, long reliever / starter. Maybe by the end of the year, Graceffo can fit his way into this mix. TK Roby could fit his way into this mix. But I think you're going to need more length for your team because you sign a guy like Blake Snell. Whereas that is not the case if you sign an Aaron Nola, for example. The other guy that could be a part of that mix that we just discussed is Sonny Gray.
Could be.
Guys, for a player that apparently can't pitch into October, knows nothing about pitching in September, can't pitch for a winner even though his team went to the playoffs this year, Sonny Gray finished second in the Cy Young voting this year in the American League. So every pitcher not named Garrett Cole, according to the voters, was worse this year than Sonny Gray. Seems like a pretty good pitcher to me. I don't know, guys. I feel like that may be a good addition for this team. All of that being said, when I hear Sonny Gray talk, dude, he sounds like a Cardinal to me. Like, I don't know how you can hear what I'm about to play for you and say to yourself, oh, yeah, Cardinals definitely not going to be interested in that guy. Here's Sonny Gray after the award ceremony yesterday talking about what went into his success this season and what changed for him as a pitcher.
I think just getting back to being me, getting back to being myself, getting back to having that competitive fire that, over the course of a career and over the course of seasons that you may can kind of lose at times, right? And you try to do too much at times. You try to be somebody you're not. You try to please other people rather than just doing your thing, going out there and being yourself and doing you. I think that's the biggest thing, because when I went from New York to Cincinnati, it was all about here. And everyone on here knows how important that this is when it comes to pitching, when it comes to baseball. And it was about getting this right first. It was about getting this back into the right space. Knowing that you can pitch and you can compete and you've done it your whole life, but getting this right, and then you can start getting into developing new pitches and learning new things. But it all kind of started right there.
And it's when he says getting this right, he's talking about mentally. He's pointing to his head and saying, I got to get my head right first, and then I can get everything else going. That sounds like a Cardinal to me. The other thing is he's got his kids up there. Like, this is a family man from Nashville. That it feels like he has figured out who he is as a pitcher, what he needs to do in order to be this version of himself. I still believe Sonny Gray is going to be a Cardinal.
Yeah,
I really do.
He sounds like the next keynote speaker at Busch Stadium following a Cardinals game, with Sonny Gray talking about the humps you have to get over to make the big leagues. But I mean, look, the pitching matches exactly what the Cardinals need. The mindset, that sounds like the prototypical Mo's probably sitting at the computer listening to that, drooling.
It's going to be a shorter-term deal. Yeah. He's 34 years old next year.
You're going upside there. It's a clean slate who comes in, and you know exactly what he's going to provide you.
Yeah. Like, everything about this just, it makes so much sense. Now, it's probably going to get paid more than you want. You're probably going to get like $23-24 million per year.
Sorry, man. It's all your money. You spend it on 2 guys.
Honestly, I'd be fine with it. If they went out there this offseason and they ended up signing Blake Snell, Sonny Gray, and added some kind of a reliever to the mix, you're light. Like, the back end of your rotation isn't what you're going to want it to be. But you are so much better in your front 2 that I would be fine with it. I really would. I would give that like a solid B for this offseason if that was what they decided to do.
I mean, I would give it a B as well. And I think you can add those other pieces that you were hoping to add in the offseason at the trade deadline if you're a competitive team. And if you're getting Snell and Gray, you're pretty much setting yourself up for a top spot in the NL Central for all the way up till the trade deadline.
Yeah, and that's where I would be. I think it would be a B, but a pretty highly graded B, because you got the number 1, you got a solid number 2. Again, we're talking a lot about a number 5 starter that we probably won't talk that much about in season, because it's going to rotate around a lot. And you get one bullpen arm, and you can always find a bullpen arm and a number 5 starter at the trade deadline.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up in a little less than 15 minutes, we'll talk to Joey Vitale, Blues analyst for 101 ESPN and Valley Sports Midwest. But coming up next, is Eli Drinkwitz deserving of National Coach of the Year nominees this year? We'll talk about it next, and we'll give you a little bit of insight into who the other nominee could be. Next here on 101 ESPN. I think Eli Drinkwitz is a lock to win SEC Coach of the Year this year. Should he win National Coach of the Year in college football? Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, earlier today over on ESPN.com, they asked a couple of their insiders, hey, who would you vote for right now to win the National Coach of the Year? And they nominated two coaches. One was Eli Drinkwitz at Mizzou for the 8-2 start to the season. Everybody kind of expects this team to be able to go 10-2. Be the first time they've done that since 2014. That's an impressive season for him, especially considering most expectations were, hey, win 6, 7, maybe 8 games this year. It's a pretty decent step forward for this program. Instead, they potentially could get up to 10. The other one that they nominated was Jeff Brom, the Louisville head coach, who has his team at 9-1 right now. Now, if you want to draw back to them, it's that they don't really have a whole lot of big wins. They did beat Notre Dame. That's a good one, but not as great as it felt at the time. And they did beat Duke, good one, not necessarily a great win. Even if they win out and they go 11-1, their next 2 games are against Miami and Kentucky. If they win in the ACC championship game, that'd be a little different. But so far this year, they've just been a pretty good team. Alex, in your opinion, should Eli Drinkwitz currently be the favorite to win National Coach of the Year?
I mean, I would consider it. It's probably going to sound like a homer because I haven't focused in on these other candidates solely on their season. But, I mean, you talk about a complete 180 of a year that Drinkwitz had with this team. And, I mean, for the most part, you're talking about the same group of guys that they had last year, maybe a couple of losses, a couple of guys that have taken the next step. But to take a next step with the same group of guys in 1 year and go from a team that won, 6-7 games to 10 wins potentially and nearly beating Georgia and LSU, I would consider that a coach of the year among all coaches in college football.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he's got a really good case to be had, and I think it comes down to him and the Oregon State head coach.
That's what I would say, too.
I think Louisville will be up there, but again, I think the only way he can get National Coach of the Year is if they win the ACC, because then you're going to beat Florida State and knock them out of the college football playoff. Then there's probably an argument for them. But you look at Drink's schedule. I mean, he's got, I'm going to call it 2.5. I know you'll call it 3. Top 25 wins. Kentucky, they fell out. They're not looking like a top 25 win, but I'll give you half a credit. They were a top 25 team when you beat them. You do have the loss to LSU, which that one looks, it's not a bad loss by any means, but it's a little disappointing. And then you lost to Georgia, which is going to be a playoff team. So he doesn't have that bad loss. He's taken the same group of guys, to Alex's point, for the most part, and taking them to the next level. And I think some people may look at this as a drawback to his Coach of the Year case. I think we talked about it at the time. It takes guts as a head coach to give up play calling and say, I got to go out and I got to hire an offensive coordinator. Yeah. Because you got to get that hire right. You don't get that hire right, then you're stuck in the same old kind of purgatory that you're in. And the offense looks great. The defense looks good. He's gotten his hires right on both the offense and defensive side of the ball. And they're looking like a team that's going to go 10-2 and have a New Year's Six bowl. Oregon State's the other one. They've got to win probably one of these games against Washington or Oregon, though, to kind of potentially leapfrog Drinkwitz.
I think that one is the one that I would pinpoint as potentially being the guy that ends up winning Coach of the Year. So Jonathan Smith is the head coach at Oregon State. If you didn't know his name prior to me saying that, that's totally understandable, because I don't think many were familiar with how good of a program Oregon State was going to be this year and how good of a coach he is. Now, Oregon State did go 9-3 last year. This was not some upstart program that came out of nowhere, but last year they didn't have the same kind of big wins that they have had so far this year. The Pac-12 is outstanding. We've been saying this all year, T-Bone. I think that's the best conference in the country. They have a win against Utah. They have a win against UCLA already. And if they get a win against either Washington or Oregon, that's where I think he locks up the award. But I agree with you. I do think he's the best candidate not named Eli Drinkwitz. And if he wins one of these final 2 games, that's how he ends up winning the award over Eli Drinkwitz. That would just be one hell of a coaching job to end what I believe to be the best conference in America, to finish the year 9-3 at Oregon State. Dude, that is a rare feat to be able to accomplish at a place like that. So I would go with Jonathan Smith if he gets one of the next 2 games. If he doesn't, then I do think the award is probably going to be Eli Drinkwitz's to lose. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we'll get to questions and answers, 314-399-9646. But next, Joey Vitale is a Blues analyst for 101 ESPN and Bally Sports Midwest. He's going to join the show coming up next to discuss Jordan Bennington's impressive start to the season, what he thinks is a reasonable workload for Benner the rest of the way, and is Robert Thomas becoming a number 1 centerman right before our very eyes? We'll talk about that with Joe next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK, and I got to tell you about my friends over at Victory Men's Health because they have launched a new telehealth site. It's called Victory RX. I mean, you can go there. You'll get prescribed the ED medication that you've been looking for. They have made this process so easy. All you got to do, go to VictoryRx.com. That's VictoryRx.com. You'll do your entire consult all via text. Victory Men's Health has already treated thousands of men in their standalone locations around the area, and now they are giving men from all over easier access to their #1 selling ED medication. This is going to come in the form of a chewable tablet. It has active ingredients with both Viagra and Cialis. It's going to work the first time around for you. You don't have to mess around with, hey, is this thing going to work? Is it going to be the first pill, second pill, third? No, not with VictoryRx.com. The chewable tablet will go directly into your bloodstream, which means that you don't have to worry about this being affected by the food or the drink that you had earlier in the day. So go to VictoryRx.com. That's VictoryRx.com and play hard.
Terry Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the San Jose Sharks, and we'll have pregame coverage starting at 8:30 with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Carber for Puck Drop at 9:30. And today, Major League Baseball owners approved the Oakland Athletics move to Las Vegas. The Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your road shop 24/7 at londoff.com, londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. And right now we are happy to be joined by Joey Vitale. He's the Blues analyst for 101 ESPN. And you saw him the other night on Bally Sports Midwest looking very dapper on television. We appreciate his time as always. Joe, how you doing today, my man?
Joey! It's awesome.
BK, Alex, Tanner, the boys. I'm doing great. We're in San Jose. It's a slow start to the day because of the time change. Guys are getting up at 5:30. This all John Kelly talking to my buddy Billy here as well. Guys get up early, so these mornings tend to take a little bit of time. So I know they're antsy to get to the rink and get into the morning skate.
I don't know about you, Joe, but I can't wait for a 9:30 puck drop here in St. Louis.
Oh man, daggers to the heart against the San Jose. Hey, listen, against the San Jose Shark team. You can't be mad at the ratings on the TV or radio side here tonight. This is a struggling, historically, a very, very bad San Jose Sharks team, guys. It started out, I believe they were 0-10-1 before they won a couple versus Philly. Edmonton, of course, the Edmonton win cost Jay Woodcroft his job. Since then, they've lost 3, so it's been a very tough start here for San Jose. And in its own little weird way, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but a different type of pressure tonight for St. Louis because now you're going to a team that there's so much pressure where you can't overwhelm yourself with the fact that, man, we don't want to lose this game, because that's obviously intentionally you come into the rink, you're like, this team is so bad. So how do you kind of correct your mind and get your mind in the right spot against a very struggling team? Again, it's a very, very different kind of pressure.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting you say that, Joe, because I've thought about these last few games, not taking anything away from the Blues because they've played really strong hockey, but how much of the success they're going through right now is also credited to other teams looking at the Blues and saying, well, these guys aren't any good this season. Like, now that might start shifting in the different direction.
Oh, listen, absolutely. I mean, I was doing my last post-game wrap with the Lex on the Valley side the other day. I think my final comment was just that. It said, there were a lot of teams at the beginning of the year that, didn't give the Blues enough credit. And then they go on this really nice little 5-6 game stretch right here, not only winning games, but outscoring teams and defending hard. I think my comment was, now the league's going to wake up and say, man, are these St. Louis Blues for real now? And I think that's going to be the tone. I think you put 1 or 2 games together, people are like, maybe, maybe not. And then all of a sudden 3 and 4, and by 5, you're like, whoa, and the Blues can look to get above, five games above, 4 games above 500 here tonight. So that's where you start to really grab attention and grab teams around the league to say, wow, this St. Louis Blues team is good. So this is where a whole new challenge for St. Louis is going to come into play, where you're not going to surprise teams anymore. You're going to face opponents this entire road trip, San Jose tonight, and then, of course, L.A., Anaheim before you're facing those Coyotes on the way home from Thanksgiving. Teams are going to be ready for the St. Louis Blues team, so it's going to be a whole new breed of challenges here.
Joey, you've seen a lot of Jordan Binnington in net over the last few years. How would you describe what we are watching right now when he's in net for the Blues?
BK, I'll be honest with you, I don't really notice anything different today than what he was the last 3-4 years. And I mean that. I think that he's been the same goalie. I think this team in front of him has been very different. And I think he'd be the first to say that to you. He'd be saying, hey, I've been the same guy the last 4 years. Unfortunately, at times our defensive structure has been complete breakdown mode. And you look at the way he's playing, yes, he's looked very steady. But I go back to that last game. Tampa Bay, aside from a couple flurry of chances early in that game where they didn't convert on, I don't know if Jordan Binnington was under a ton of distress. And what I mean by distress is, go back to Game 7 versus the Boston Bruins in 2019. That's distress, right? So I want fans to understand, what I mean by that. Breakdowns, backdoors, breakaways, like that to me is a goaltender under distress. And I don't know if I look at that Tampa game that if Jordan Binnington was under constant distress for large stretches of that game. And I think you have to give credit to this defensive structure. I mean, that was a game versus Tampa Bay. They had 26 block shots the most of the season, led by Torrey Krug, Marco Scandella. So this is a team committed to blocking shots. It's a team committed to keeping things to the outside. And then from a physics standpoint, when you keep shots from the outside, when you're absorbing those shots, it's much easier to deflect rebounds to the corners and to the side versus taking shots down the middle of the ice, where then those rebounds are going to typically lay right in front of you. So that's where I think Jordan Binnington certainly has been good. He's been focused. But I think he's been good and focused every year. I don't think he's ever had a lapse in that focus and that poise and that competitiveness. I just think now it's a combination where, you have it out of your goalie, but now you have it also as a team commitment from the defensive side of things. And that's where this good marriage really has made the Blues so successful over the last 5 to 6 games.
So on the defensive side of things, Joe, I texted you this the other night because the number just, it amazed me, the turnaround of 1 year for Torrey Krug and Justin Falk. These two are sitting as a plus 20 right now. What is it from those two that are making them so different from what we saw last year?
I think the biggest thing was Torrey Krug. I think Justin's always kind of brought that nature about him to defend hard, to be a solid, structured player back there where he doesn't let a lot get behind him. I think Torrey Krug was, a bit of a cowboy last year, and what I mean by that is taking chances, jumping up in the rush, I think that his focus was to get offensive numbers. When you have that type of focus, you're gonna leave your defensemen, your goaltenders, and your forwards hanging dry at times. So I think this summer it was a bit of a humble summer for Torrey. I think he came into the season once again having to prove himself, and I think he went back to ground zero. I think he looked at the foundation of who he is as a player, and that has to be defense first. So I think that now the numbers are starting to come, and that's a good and well. But I think the most pride he's taking in his game right now is making sure he's closing plays quickly, making sure he's a good first pass option to get out of the zone fast, and making sure he's not putting his partner Justin Falk in a bad spot by jumping up and maybe pinching at times when he shouldn't. So I think that he's been a very responsible player defensively. He's taken a lot more pride in the defensive side of things. Again, now it's converting to numbers on the offensive side of things, but this is his bread and butter, and this has to be the foundation of his game, and that's exactly what we're seeing out of that pair, and the main reason why that plus-minus has looked so good between the two of them.
Joey, final question that I've got for you. We're talking to Joey Vitale, Blues analyst for 101 ESPN and Bally Sports Midwest. Robert Thomas has really raised his game over the last 6 or 7 now, I would say. He's now 6th among all centers in the NHL in plus-minus on the year. He's top 12 in points per game played among centermen, and he's winning 57% of his faceoffs on the season as well, while playing almost 20 minutes a night. Are we seeing him develop into something approaching a number 1 center in your mind?
Well, I mean, listen, he is a number 1 center right now for the St. Louis Blues team. How does he compare to the number 1 centers across the league? I mean, I would say he's right in the middle of the pack. I mean, you look at a team like the San Jose Sharks and the Anaheim Ducks, certainly the Arizona Coyotes with Hayton. I think that, Robert Thomas is a head and shoulders above their number 1 centers. But then you look at across it like a Nathan McKinnon and a Sidney Crosby, a Connor McDavid. There's players at number 1 centermen that are ahead of him. So I think Robert Thomas, is right in the middle of the pack and developing exactly where he should be. I think that the face-off percentage, especially over the last 2, he's been incredible on the dot. That has helped his confidence. It's helped getting puck possession back. But he's in a rhythm right now where his point production has come so far this season from one thing in my mind. He's been a shot-first player. We saw it in preseason. He's throwing more pucks at the net. It was something they've been trying to get him to do over the last couple seasons. It's finally clicked, I think, for him. He's realized by shooting the puck more, he's going to be one thing that he hasn't really been in the past, which is unpredictable. Remember Robert Thomas 3-4 years ago, every time he'd come in the offensive zone, it'd be come in, approach the blue line, curl up, look for a pass. When you do that over and over again, the scouting report is out there on you, and everyone knows what you're going to do, and defensemen tend to close the gap pretty quickly. And you kind of take on a reputation of like a Jonathan Huberdeau, I think, where Jonathan Huberdeau is a pass-first player. He's become very easy to defend against in Calgary, in my opinion, because everyone knows he's looking for the pass. When you play that way, you become predictable and you're very easy to defend. Now Robert Thomas has come into the season. He's been a shot-first mentality. He's shooting more pucks. He's throwing more pucks at the net. And now defensemen have to give him a little bit more space. They have to give him more time. Why? Because you don't know what he's going to do. You come in the offensive zone, he's going to button up, he's going to drive the net, he's going to shoot, he's going to look past through seam. You become a very unpredictable player, and when you do that, that's what's been leading to a lot of his point production.
Joe, we appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy yourself out there in San Jose. I know it's not a great team, but at least it's better than being in that frigid cold up in Calgary whenever we talked with you a couple of weeks ago.
Calgary, Canada.
So enjoy yourself, and we'll talk with you again soon, my man.
Hey, you're doggone right. I've known people that can make hell out of heaven and heaven out of hell. I'll be honest with you. I'm in San Jose. It's not a very good hockey team, but the sun is out. I'd rather be in San Jose against a bad team than Edmonton for a bad team. You're absolutely right about that, BK.
Nailed that.
It could always be worse. Just remember that, Joe. Appreciate you, man. That's Joey Vitale joining us as he does each and every Thursday here on BK and Ferrario. We sincerely appreciate him as always. You can hear him, by the way, on the pregame show with Alex Ferrario starting tonight at 8:30 local time. Puck drop for Blues versus the Sharks right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN tonight at 9:30. Alex, this is the trip that I filled in for you on a couple of years ago.
But you filled in like February and March the year you did, and I am very happy that it's happening in November now.
This trip's fun, man. It's real fun.
Is it?
A couple of 9:30 starts, a couple of weekend games, back-to-back ready to go for you. Chef's kiss. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
Do you want to fill in tonight?
Nope, sure don't.
You sure? You had a great time doing it, so why not do it again?
I did have a really good time. It was great to fill in with the boys. I enjoyed it. Don't need to do it again.
You whined afterwards about how sick you were.
You get to see the LA Kings, too. My guy Gabe Velarde was on the team then. I liked him.
He's playing incredible right now.
He's not really getting much playing time. He's hurt.
Yeah.
It's hurt with the Winnipeg Jets. However, Winnipeg, better team than expected, just like I told you. Just like I told you.
I don't think you told us that.
Robert Thomas, by the way, if he becomes a mid-tier number one center, what he just said there, if that's what he is this year, Blues are going to be in a good spot.
Oh, God, yeah.
My concern was that he would be a lower tier number one center or a upper crest number two center. For him to be here right now, that's a really good sign.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about Elias Lindholm, and this was when Robert Thomas was struggling, and we talked about, hey, would you consider this? I think we all pushed back on it because you got a young player, but like Lindholm's past. Guys, Lindholm's probably going to be making $9.5 million, and Thomas is significantly better than him this year and has been better than him since Elias Lindholm had that unbelievable season with Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. And Thomas is probably going to be making $1 or $2 million less than Elias Lindholm. That's where you're at right now. Oh, and also is 25 years old. It's a good spot to be in, and this team is in dire need of those two guys taking the step forward. And we were just looking at the analytics during the commercial break by JFresh. You're starting to see the movement north of Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, which no coincidence this team's been playing hot.
Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we'll get into our next Choose Your Own Adventure. I call this one the Cardinals pitching issues cease to exist. We'll get into that coming up in about 15 minutes. But coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Alex, would a 2-1-1 record on this 4-game road trip be considered to be a success in your mind?
Yeah, I would consider that. You took what would that be? That'd be 5 out of a possible 8 points. I'd consider that a success. I mean, I guess it depends on the teams you're beating. I'd love one of those victories to be against the Arizona Coyotes because I think that's more impactful. So if you beat San Jose and Arizona, lose in overtime to one of Anaheim and LA and lose to the other, yeah, I'd call that a win. Now, if you go 2-1-1 and lose to the San Jose Sharks in regulation, be a little disappointed.
See, I think I would call that a success.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
especially on the road. If these were home games, I might feel a little differently.
Yeah.
But on the road, I feel like
Your
that's a big-time success.
goal's about to be about 500 on the road, and that's above 500 right there. One guarantee win, one win against one of those quality teams, and then a point against another. Yeah, I would take that.
I've got no problem with it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I would be totally fine with that.
West Coast trips
if there was a
suck.
button that I could hit right now that would lock in a 2-1-1 road trip, I would do it instead of pressing my luck and seeing what happens. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Guys, I know you've talked about this before, but what are your current thoughts on Carlson for Alek Manoah?
I love the idea of it. I think we've talked about you need to get sure things in front of that. Like Alek Manoah cannot be a sure thing, but you're trading an uncertainty for another uncertainty. And the uncertainty of Dylan Carlson might be somebody that's a really good outfielder for another team. The uncertainty of Alek Manoah could be a legit Cy Young candidate, and you've got him cost controlled. I would do that in a heartbeat if I knew that they were actually going to get capable pitchers with Manoah.
Yeah, I would do it as long as you have those top 2 guys, and he is the third pitcher that you bring in. It can't be where, okay, Alek Manoah, we can fix him. That's going to be our number 2, because if he's fixed, he can pitch like an ace. I mean, he got Cy Young votes, what was that, 2 years ago? So I don't mind the idea, but you have to do those other moves first before you try and pull this trade off.
I agree. I like Alek Manoah a lot. I think every move changes what the other moves need to be. Like if you sign Blake Snell, I don't think that is a move where I would then want to add Alek Manoah to the mix.
Correct.
That's a lot of uncertainty that would be added to the mix. If you sign Aaron Nola, though, yeah, now that becomes a really intriguing addition because now you've got the potential for swing and miss with Manoah that is added to the certainty at the front end of the rotation with Aaron Nola. And now you can see how that works as a 1-2 combination if everything goes well for Manoah. I also have innings that I'm locking in with Aaron Nola in this spot. So it really all depends on what you do at the front end of your rotation as to who I believe that third starter could or should be. But I don't have any issues with Manoah being that guy. And if you're trading Dylan Carlson, I think that's the kind of deal that you're probably looking for. I would want to find upside with the guy that I'm getting in return for Carlson instead of trying to lock in like a Dylan Carlson for Shane Bieber type of a deal. That would be kind of what I would be looking for, is trying to find a little bit more upside. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for questions and answers from the 804. Guys, if the Cardinals were to sign Shohei Ohtani, is the story a positive or a negative for the team?
Is it weird that it's kind of a negative for this season?
I mean, you can't sign Shohei Ohtani.
No, you can't.
It doesn't make any sense.
But going down the hypothetical path, they sign it. I don't know if I'm excited about that.
I mean, I'm excited to watch Shohei Ohtani. That sounds awesome.
Well, yeah, but what's your pitching?
I'll figure it out.
Well, will you?
Yeah.
All right, Miles Michaelis, Steven Matz, Zach Thompson,
What
Matthew
if they signed
Liberatore.
Shohei Ohtani and traded Nolan Arenado?
And then, but you're still not fixing your pitching.
Go make some trades.
So you're trading multiple
Nolan
guys.
Arenado is bringing back pitching.
Yeah, but he's only bringing back pitching from one team.
Yeah.
Bobby Miller getting you excited
Yeah.
Sure.
in the rotation for this year?
If I've got Bobby Miller and Shohei Ohtani on this
Shohei's
team-
not pitching this year.
I know, but this year I'll have Bobby Miller in my rotation. I'll trade Tyler O'Neill for Shane Bieber. And
Alek Manoah, you get for Dylan Carlson.
perfect.
I actually would love that offseason. That's
sounds
an
awesome.
A-plus offseason, in my opinion.
I mean, listen, are you light on your pitching? Yeah. Do you have Shohei bleeping Ohtani now? Yeah, that seems pretty good.
that would be my offseason.
If you sign Ohtani this year, it's kind of like a transition year for your pitching because you go, All right, bleep it. Who cares about the rotation? We just got the best player in the world.
Right.
We'll figure out pitching next year when we have more money available to us. So
I'd rather sign Michael Wacha than Shohei Ohtani.
I think we just get the whole band back together rather than
Lance
sign
Lynn?
Ohtani.
Should I
Yeah.
put together a Shohei Ohtani choose your own adventure?
No.
Shohei the Money.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
There you go. That's a good name for it.
Better than yours.
I'll come up with something.
Show me state shows.
No, stop it. Right now.
Damn.
You can't beat Shohei the Money.
Show me Shohei.
Whatever city he signs in, if the front page of that newspaper is not Shohei the Money, you've lost.
That's got to be it, right? Like
You've
if,
lost.
if he's going to sign with the Mets, that's what they got to go.
Shohei the Money. You got to spell it that way.
Sign Shohei
Money.
Ohtani. It's $50 million a year.
Trade
Trade
Arenado for Bobby
to
Miller.
the Dodgers. You get Bobby Miller.
Trade Carlson to Toronto
so now
for
you've
Manoah.
added $22 million in the aggregate.
What's aggregate mean?
$22 million in the aggregate.
God, Mo.
You signed
net.
Sonny Gray for $23 million a year.
No, you're not being prudent with your money.
And you trade Tyler O'Neill for Shane Bieber. So you've added to your rotation Bobby Miller, Sonny Gray,
How can you make Sonny Gray work?
Because I traded Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, but you signed Ohtani for $50 million.
Yeah,
But I
you just got rid
traded
of
Nolan Arenado.
But that's $30 million.
Yeah, so I've added $20 million between those two.
That's the aggregate.
Is that what aggregate means?
When you subtract 30 from 50, you get 20. And then I've added 20 more with Sonny Gray. We're up to 40 now. And I add about $10 million more with Shane Bieber.
You just said Sonny was getting 23.
Yeah, so 43. And then I've added 7, technically, for Shane Bieber as his projection. So I've got $50 million out of adding.
That's not being prudent with
Do
your
you
money.
like that?
That's not being prudent with your money.
You got Bobby Miller. You
Can
got
I
Sonny
trade
Gray.
Carlson for Manoah still?
No,
You
you
don't
got
need
3
him.
starters.
What do you mean you don't need him?
You got Carl.
Shohei can't pitch this year.
I just told you, Bobby Miller, Sonny Gray, and Shane Bieber is your new additions via your rotation. You have traded Nolan Arenado, which means Nolan Gorman's going to be playing third for you this year, and Tommy Edmonds going to be playing second for you this year, and Shohei Ohtani's your DH. How you feeling?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Can Shohei play third?
You got Gorman to play third.
Yeah.
Donovan will be at second.
Is that team better than the teams that we have been
yeah.
discussing that include going out and just getting the pitching
Absolutely.
and keeping Nolan Arenado?
Someone said you should put together a choose your own adventure for an all Japanese offseason where you get Ohtani, Yamamoto, and Imanaga.
I can't get rid of enough money.
Yeah, you can.
You'd have to get rid of Goldie and Arenado.
Who says no? Jordan Walker at first, Gorman at third. Who says no?
Coming up next, Alec Burleson at first, of course. Coming
No,
up
he's gone.
next,
Yeah.
speaking of choose your own adventure for the Cardinals, we've got a new one to put together. This is number 3, scenario number 3. The Cardinals itch. Take 2.
Cardinals itch?
The Cardinals pitching issues cease to exist.
Shohei the Money. Better.
We'll describe the offseason next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We've been doing these scenarios all week, boys. The singing for Snell, the nothing but Nola. We're on scenario number 3. I call this one, the pitching issues cease to exist for the St. Louis Cardinals, Alex.
Pretty long.
So the first couple, I think, were mostly well-received by Cardinals fans. So the first one, it was Snell. You get Glasnow, Paul Blackburn, Sean Manaea, and you get a mid-tier reliever. 41% of the audience voted that to be an A. 41% said a B, and there were a couple stragglers that said a C or a D. Now, yesterday, the offseason Choose Your Own Adventure was adding Nola, Waka, a mid-tier reliever, and then trading Tyler O'Neill for a reliever as well. It was not quite as well received. 20% of the audience said that's an A offseason. 42% said a B. 31% said a C. And then about 8% of you said, nah, screw that. That's a failure of an offseason.
It's a smart 8%.
Today's offseason, Alex, is going to include your biggest addition coming via trade. And it hurts. I mean, it hurts a lot. You're trading for Dylan Cease. And if you're not familiar with this, this is Choose Your Own Adventure Cardinals offseason edition. Basically, every move that you make ends up impacting what the next move is. So when you go sign Blake Snell, there are other things that you can do that are a little different than if you had gone out there and made, for example, a trade for the top end of your rotation because of money, because of certainty, all of these different reasons. So the first move that they make in this scenario, they trade Nolan Gorman, Tink Hence, and Luken Baker for Dylan Cease. So you're trading away your top pitching prospect in the system in Tink Hence. You're trading away a potential 35 to 40 home run power hitter from the left side at second base. And you're getting in return the number one starter that is cost controlled that you crave in Dylan Cease.
Just going to ignore the fact that we got rid of Luken Baker.
Yeah, he's in there too.
Wow.
Well, I mean,
At first, when he said 40 power, I was like, oh my gosh, he about to go like Luken Baker can hit 40 home runs.
can I put a different trade together, or does it have
Nope,
to be that trade?
that's the trade.
Come on, man. You could get rid of Ivan Herrera and Graceffo and be fine.
Nope. It's
Don't
going to
get
hurt.
rid of Tink
If you're
Hence.
going to get Dylan Cease, it's going to hurt. And I think trading away Gorman and Tink Hence is the type of deal that hurts for the Cardinals. Part 2 of this, you sign Sonny Gray. You get him on a 3-year deal worth $66 million. It's $22 million per season. Part 3, you sign Tyler Mahle. Now, he's hurt right now. He's coming back from, I believe it was Tommy John that he received. He's probably going to miss some, if not most, of the 2024 season. You get him on a 2-year deal worth $20 million. He returns towards at some point in the second half of this upcoming season, and then is also available to you in 2025. This is something that a lot of teams are doing now, where they're getting 2-year deals for these guys. I think somebody might do this with Brandon Woodruff, honestly, where they trade for him and then sign him on a 2-year
Be
deal.
more willing to do it with Woodruff than Mahle.
Signing him for 2 years, $20 million, cheap addition. This is going to cost you less than like a Sean Manaea or Paxton, somebody like that. And you get him for an extra year as well. Then you are adding 2 legitimate bullpen arms in this scenario as well. You got Reynaldo Lopez on a 3-year deal worth $30 million. He's the former White Sox reliever. So you're bringing in Dylan Cease and Reynaldo Lopez. And you're signing Phil Maton, who's an Illinois native. And he's going to come to the Cardinals. He's previously with the Astros.
Shocker.
Oh, it's like Aaron
The guy
Nola. He
that
lives
was
in
behind
Louisiana.
St. Louis.
Yep.
Wow.
2 years, $10 million, so a $5 million per year basis. So to sum this up, you traded for Dylan Cease, you signed Sonny Gray, you signed Tyler Mahle, and then for your bullpen, you had 2 guys that can help you in the 7th or 8th inning with Reynaldo Lopez and Phil Maton. Alex, T-Bone, text line at 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. How would you feel about such an offseason? Headlined by a trade, adding in a couple of starters and relievers as well.
Well, I can already tell you the text line are going to hate this because you're trading away Nolan Gorman. I actually like this one, and I know it sucks to trade away a Nolan Gorman, but you're getting a cost-controlled, legit top-end pitcher. I won't call him an ace because, frankly, this year he didn't pitch like one, but year prior he did. And you've got the opportunity. In this scenario, you need to make sure you lock up Dylan Cease, though, because you have 1 more year of him this year and next year, and then he's a free agent, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to pay the guy. But your pitching is what we've all wanted it to see. You've got a legit 1-2 punch of Cease and Sonny Gray and Miles Michaelis as that 3rd guy, and Tyler Mahle by the end of the season you're hoping is that 5th piece, and you upgraded your bullpen. So I like this one.
I think I like it too. I'm very torn on whether or not I like it because of Gorman being traded. Because you don't have anybody in your system or anybody on the roster that can do what Nolan Gorman does, which is slug 40 home runs from the left side. And I know that he can be streaky. I know that people get frustrated with the strikeouts, and defensively, he's just average at best at second base. I am a little nervous to trade him because I feel like there's a chance that he would look back on that deal and go, we lost. And he's the reason why. Tink Hint's being thrown in here. I understand that because you got to give away a potential ace for an ace. Bakers are throwing.
The amount of people, by the way, on the text line that are pissed off more about Tink Hint's being traded away is just amazing to me.
I agree. No, Tink Hint it's why I included him in this deal, because I think people are underestimating how much it's going to hurt. If you're going to get Dylan Cease or Logan Gilbert, like you are going to have to trade away a ton, because everybody wants those guys this offseason. There is not enough pitching to go around. When 20 teams are in on the free agent market, and there's like 5 guys that are at the level of the guys that we're talking about trade-wise, and they're all getting $20+ million, I mean, people want to go out there and get the cost-controlled guys that are going to cost you $5 million. So what do you do in order to decrease the potential salaries? You have to increase the cost of the prospects.
But this is like the problem of like people... Like, we haven't seen Tink Hint yet, and although the expectation is the guy's going to be a stud, understandable, but how many times have we done this?
He might be a bullpen arm.
Yeah.
2 years from now, you might be talking about Tink Hint as your closer.
And we got to stop.
Possible.
We got to stop doing this. Of like, well, I can't trade this guy. He's going to be an ace for us. We've been doing this for the last 5 years, and only twice have we seen somebody get traded and say, "Oh yeah, he's actually supposed to be a really good guy."
And they weren't at the level of these guys.
Yeah, they were guys that they didn't even know they had.
Tink Hint might be amazing. He may be an ace. Tink Hint's also the more likely scenario is he's a mid-rotation starter or a bullpen arm. Like that's probably what he's going to end up as. It's a highly, highly effective arm that throws with big-time velocity, and it's the kind of arm that the Cardinals have not had in their system. So I totally understand why everybody would want to protect that at all costs. You know what Dylan Cease is? All of those things that I just said and proven. Like, that is the type of pitcher that the Cardinals are seeking. He's 27 years old. You might end up re-signing Dylan Cease after this upcoming year if he's good. And we got a text that I found to be interesting, guys. They said, why would you trade for Dylan Cease? He's too erratic. That's not the type of pitcher that the Cardinals want. I'm trying to find out why he's erratic. Because if we are all in on Aaron Nola, and I would assume that if this texter is saying that they think that he's too erratic, they'd probably be looking more towards the Aaron Nola route. Dylan Cease and Aaron Nola were basically the same pitcher this year. And Dylan Cease and Aaron Nola were also basically the same pitcher a year ago, except Dylan Cease was better. And then if you want to go the year prior to that, again, a bad year for Aaron Nola with a 4.63 ERA. Guess what Dylan Cease had that year in his first full season as a big league starter? 3.9. So over the last 3 seasons, there is no question about it. The better starter has been Dylan Cease. If you want to do Dylan Cease compared to Nola, compared to Sonny Gray, compared to Blake Snell, Dylan Cease is the best of those guys based on what he has accomplished over his last 3 years. He's also coming at a quarter of the price at a minimum, and you're going to have him locked up for the next couple of years at a similar price. So Dylan Cease is a big-time get if you're able to acquire him. He's a legitimate #1 starter.
And I've brought this up before, and I'm glad that you put Hintz in here in this scenario. I think it's okay if you trade one of your top-end pitching prospects in Hintz or TK Roby in a trade like this in the scenario, because not only, I mean, I wouldn't sign him right away, but if this deal ends up working out, the Cardinals would lock up Dylan Cease, and you would have him here for 7 years. And you'd get 7 years of what you would hope would be ace-level stuff.
Who's 27 years old.
Exactly, compared to the unknown of a Tink Hint, and he could very well be a bullpen arm. The guy that I'm more hesitant about in this deal, because I understand the idea of moving Tink Hint, is Nolan Gorman, because he is proven at the big league level. That's why, as much as I want Dylan Cease, I don't know if I would go down this route, because I just don't think you have a guy that can replace what Gorman provides to that lineup. If you would have replaced Gorman's name with a Nootbaar or a Donovan, yeah, I probably would be more in to make that move. But you just don't have a 40 home run raw power guy. And maybe I dig the long ball, so maybe that's why I'm a little more phased by this. I just think Gorman is the guy that you look back on when you trade him and you go, crap, I think we let one go, because it's going to take a long time to find that guy that you can replace him with.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. And I think that's why these kinds of scenarios are interesting to discuss, is because I think that's what it's going to take. I think if you're calling other teams right now, the guys that they're really asking for are Lars Nootbaar, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman. I think those are the three guys that are coming up from your big league roster. You can add in probably Brendan Donovan. The arm issue, though, I do think is going to be a factor going into this offseason where teams are wondering, like, hey, where's he going to be at 6 months from now? And the full expectation is that he's going to be fine. He's already started up his throwing program. Like, I think he's going to be A-okay. But a big part of Brendan Donovan's value is he can play everywhere for you. Well, what if the throwing program doesn't take quite as anticipated, and now he's not going to be a guy that is as easily able to play in the outfield as he was previously? That's a big deal for these teams. So I think it maybe saps his value a little bit, and when you get into conversations like this for a number one starter, it probably turns the attention to your big-time players that are not named Brendan Donovan. The guy that's probably at the top of the list of the players that the Cardinals would be at least willing to listen on is Nolan Gorman. And that's going to hurt. It might end up with this guy going on to be an all-star second baseman for the next 10 years for another team, and you look back on it and you say to yourself, man, we got an erratic starter because pitchers are erratic by nature, and we let him go after 2 years, and what we traded for in return for that was an all-star caliber second baseman that we really ended up needing. The other side of this, though, if you end up trading Nolan Gorman, maybe you start Tommy Edman every day at second base. And guess what that does? It makes you much better defensively. Now, I think Gorman was fine defensively this year. Tommy Edman's really good defensively. It also means that you probably have to go out there and get a center fielder, because if you're starting Tommy Edman there, you need to go out and get a center fielder. So maybe it brings Brendan Donovan to second base, where I think it's actually a bit of a downgrade for you defensively from what Gorman was this year. I don't know, man. I would give this a B because it's a lot of risk that you're taking on long term. I do think if we're just talking about 2024, though, you have solved your bullpen problems by bringing in two high-leverage relievers that can help you there. I think you've mostly solved your pitching problems. Dylan Cease is better than anybody that you had a year ago. And I think Sonny Gray is like at least the equivalent right now of what Jordan Montgomery is. And so when you add those two guys at the front end of your rotation, the potential of Tyler Mahle joining you at the back end of your rotation, for the next 2 years, you're good. And now we go back to the pipeline and you think to yourself, okay, TK Roby's coming. Graceffo's coming. You've got other guys that you can trust down in the minor leagues. We've got to get that cycle churning once again of having the development of pitching. And that's how you sustain what is now an infusion of talent into the rotation. But for the next couple of years, I think this makes you a lot better in your rotation. This is basically a stopgap for you until those guys are coming through your system.
And I get that you've been searching for this Nolan Gorman for a long time, but it lessens the pain for me. And I get that they're two different sides of the plate batters, but it lessens the blow if I have Jordan Walker turning into the player that I expected him to be. And look, I'll trust the Cardinals' ability to develop hitters because they found ways to do it over these last 3 to 5 years. Whereas pitching, I can't trust this team to sit there and develop Tink Hence into an ace. I can't trust this team to develop TK Roby into an ace. If you would give me two envelopes and say Nolan Gorman goes in both of these, I would take the Logan Gilbert envelope over the Dylan Cease envelope. Yeah, I would, because I think Logan Gilbert's younger, and I think Logan Gilbert's got a little bit more proven, and I understand it's like a short sample size compared to Dylan Cease, but I think the upside's better in Logan Gilbert. But these are the two envelopes you're going to acquire this top end pitcher that's available.
I think I would rather have Cease, by the way.
Yeah, I would much rather have Logan Gilbert. I think the upside is just better, but you're going to have to give up Nolan Gorman regardless. You're not getting any of these guys, anybody who's better than Nola or Snell on the market. You're not getting any of them for Donovan or Tommy Edman or Alec Burleson or Lars Nootbaar. It's Nolan Gorman or you're not getting them.
So I think we talked about this a little bit off air. I don't think we ever actually brought it on air. I was looking into Nolan Gorman the other day just a little bit more and kind of thinking about, okay, what does he project to be? Like, what's his long-term outlook going to be? And a guy that came to mind for me, he's not exactly one for one, but was Jay Bruce, who was a former first-round pick as well. And he ended up having a really good career, a really good major league career. Multi-time All-Star, was in the top 10 of MVP voting a couple of times, was a consistent, like, 25 to 35 home run type of a hitter. Never had like the high batting average necessarily, also not a great on-base percentage, but always slugged the hell out of the baseball. Left-handed power, that's what you're looking for. I think a lot of the times we bring up like, he's Kyle Schwarber. What if I told you instead of trading Kyle Schwarber, you actually traded Jay Bruce? Does that make you feel better about a trade like this? Where he's a really good player, but made a few all-star games? ended up in the MVP conversation a couple of times, but was never really like a big part of it. Was a like rookie of the year candidate when he came up. Does that change at all what we think of the potential of trading Gorman?
I mean, it would for me. Like Kyle Schwarber's just different in my opinion than Jay Bruce. Maybe because Kyle Schwarber has hit that 40 home run number and you're looking at how impactful he's been. And like Jay Bruce, part of it with Jay Bruce is he was just on a bad team for the best part of his career with the Cincinnati Reds that really never got much done. But yeah, it definitely lessens the blow for me, because if you're telling me I traded away a Jay Bruce and got somebody back in return who was a young starting pitcher, a number one, okay. Yeah, it sucks to lose a guy who's hitting 34, 35 home runs in a season, but the decline of Jay Bruce was pretty quick.
Yeah, so if he became Jay Bruce, I just looked this because I was curious, like, what was Bruce's numbers up until the point where Gorman will reach arbitration, which was his age 28 year. Bruce was 9% above league average, and he averaged 26 homers and 80 RBIs. So if he ends up being Jay Bruce kind of numbers, then yeah, I think then I don't feel bad about trading him. I guess where I am is I feel he is more of a mold of Bruce and Schwarber, where he hits a little bit better on the average side, kind of as Bruce did, but he's got the Schwarber power to where he hits like 230, 240, which is kind of where Jay Bruce was in his career, but he hits 40 home runs, which Bruce never got to. So that's why I would say that's why I am more on the side of don't trade Nolan Gorman, because I view him with still a higher ceiling than what Jay Bruce is.
Yeah, I would like to have a Jay Bruce in my lineup. I feel like you can go to the free agent market and find a similar type of a hitter, and you don't have to pay $20 million for it. Could I go to the market, and I know this is the guy that we always bring up as a lefty bat, but could I get Jock Peterson or somebody that's similar to Jock Peterson for $12 to $15 million in my lineup, as opposed to having to have Nolan Gorman, and then I can trade Gorman for Dylan Cease? I don't know, but that would be one thing that maybe opens up my mind to this line of thinking. It's hard. Trading for Dylan Cease is going to be hard. It should hurt. It's supposed to hurt, because getting a number one starter is not supposed to be easy. So, especially a young one that's cost controlled. I like this route. I would give it like a really solid B. I don't think it's the ideal scenario, but I'm not sure there's an ideal scenario for the Cardinals given the fact that they only have $50 million to spend.
Well, there is, and you just presented it the last segment, getting Ohtani and then trading or signing Sonny Gray and
trading Arenado.
That's the ideal scenario, but you've got to be prudent with your money, right, guys?
If you guys want to give your grade, I'll put this out on Twitter. At BK Sports Talk is where you go to find it. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, Alex will tell you the two reasons why the Blues would never have to fall into a rebuild similar to what the Sharks are going through right now. But next, NFL Quick Hitters here on 101 at ESPN. All right, you know what that music means. It is time for NFL Quick Hitters. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up here in just a little bit, Alex will give you the 2 reasons why the Blues are not going to have to rely on a rebuild the way that the San Jose Sharks are. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. But Alex, let's get into some NFL Quick Hitters. The other day, I was looking around on Twitter, saw a post. CeeDee Lamb said, quote, "I'm the top receiver in the game. It's no question about it. I am going to be a top receiver in this game, and if you have any questions about it, you'll all see again next week."
Uh-oh, somebody wants to get paid.
CeeDee Lamb is the first player in the NFL Super Bowl era to record double-digit catches and at least 150 yards in 3 straight games. Alex, if you were to put together a list right now of the top 5 receivers in the game, because I'm not sure that we've ever had a better crop of receivers than we do right now, how would you rank them?
Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. I'd have Stephon Diggs above CeeDee Lamb. And then I'd get to CeeDee Lamb.
What about Jamar?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I'd have Jamar and CeeDee Lamb kind of in that same category. And is it crazy to give the slight edge to CeeDee Lamb?
Devontae?
I think if we're talking right now, I would not have him above any of those guys I just named.
Cup?
I would not have him above any of the guys I just named.
So I agree with your top 3. I think Tyreek clearly 1, Brown. I would put Brown at 2.
Over Jefferson?
Yeah. And then I would put Jefferson 3. But like I can understand flipping those 2.
It does.
I think that's
they're
a clear
interchangeable.
definitive top 3 in some order.
Yeah, I think they're interchangeable.
I would personally put Jamar Chase probably in the top 5. I would hear the argument for CeeDee Lamb. Another guy that I would throw in here is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been awesome for the Detroit Lions. They don't have him. Trust me, you're seeing Jared Goff from the LA Rams. So I would put him in consideration in that top 5. I think those are the 3, though, that I would hear the serious argument for is Chase, St. Brown, and then who was the other one? CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's playing like a top 5 wideout right now.
I wonder if in 3 years we're talking about St. Brown the way we're talking about Tyreek Hill. For a guy who could create so much out of nothing.
I think he's Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
I think that's the mold of what he is as a player.
Just a healthy Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the explosiveness of Tyreek.
Am I wrong?
He's been healthy this year.
The old guy.
Tyreek is unlike anything I've ever seen at the position. He is quicker than any other receiver I've ever seen, and he's fast the way that Randy Moss was fast, where like every other player on the field just looks like they're moving in slow motion in comparison. A.J. Brown is the guy that I think has moved up my list the most this year. Oh, really over the last couple of years, but definitely this year. He's taken another step in a way where, man, if you wanted to call A.J. Brown the best receiver in the NFL right now, I would personally take Tyreek, but I would get it. I wouldn't blame you for it at all. That guy is amazing. He's just a monster.
He's a different Tyreek. So, like, if there's 2 categories, I think A.J. Brown's in a category of his own because he creates his own space, not so much his speed, but his ability to just out-muscle. Like, honestly, he's not...
more the DK Metcalf mold.
DK Metcalf, he's not Megatron, but he's kind of Megatron, where dude was so big you couldn't defend him.
That's a really good comparison. Like, he's more in that mold where Tyreek Hill is... like a Randy Moss, honestly.
And that's why I think they're 2 different guys that could be argued number 1.
You know what? A.J. Brown is Terrell Owens. That's the historical comparison that I'd probably make for him. In terms of the size, the speed, the contested catchability, that would be the guy that I would throw in there. We've got a few people that are wondering about Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is...
He's too inconsistent with his injury.
There's that. And Keenan Allen's awesome, but he is more in that Amon-Ra St. Brown mold where I just don't value the slot receiver quite as much. I would... If I've got to go one versus the other, I will always lean towards the boundary receiver over the slot receiver, even though I understand slot receivers are incredibly valuable right now, and everybody's playing at some point in the slot. Like even A.J. Brown gets slot snaps. Tyreek Hill, they had him in the slot occasionally to get him free releases. The only place you're ever going to find Keenan Allen and Amon-Ra St. Brown are basically in the slot, though. So that would be one of the tiebreakers that I would use. And if we're talking top 5 receivers, that's one of the reasons I wouldn't have them or CeeDee Lamb up there in the top 5 of my wide receivers. I do think they're all really freaking good, though, man. There's a lot of good receivers around the league right now. Garrett Wilson, we didn't even talk about. And I think last year we would have had a
Garrett Wilson needs a quarterback, and if Garrett Wilson had a quarterback, he'd probably rise like an A.J. Brown's been rising.
Forget about him. And he's not doing... Because we talk about A.J. Brown, you saw how important he was to the Titans.
Yeah.
Where you pluck him from the team, and it wasn't, oh, that was Derrick Henry's team. No, that was A.J. Brown's team. He hasn't done that yet to where he can propel a bad quarterback in a bad situation like A.J. Brown did.
Next thing up here, a little bit of news coming out of Carolina today. Apparently, Frank Reich is going to be taking over play calling duties again.
Didn't he just give it to Thomas Brown?
Correct. 3 weeks was all that it lasted for Thomas Brown.
Trying to make sure everybody knows it's not Bryce Young, guys. It's not Bryce Young. It's us.
In my mind, my takeaway from this is that it's panic time officially in Carolina. And Frank Reich knows if this doesn't get turned around quickly, I'm going to be fired at the end of this season. And I don't know if that's fair or not, because I don't think he has a quarterback right now. I'm lower on Bryce Young than many in our audience probably are right now. I'm basically out on him. Do you guys think Frank Reich is in trouble if this doesn't get turned around?
I think you have to be. Like, you hired him solely because of the guy you were drafting at quarterback, and you have not been able to get the best out of that quarterback. And I think it hurts more for Frank Reich watching C.J. Stroud have success and seeing what Anthony Richard did in a short sample size when Bryce Young was the most QB-ready quarterback available in this draft. So, yeah, if this season goes to crap faster, Frank Reich should be gone because you need to get a quarterback who can get the best out of the guy you just spent your future assets on.
Yeah, I think I agree with Alex. I think it is. I think you're right. This is a sign of panic to where Frank Reich knows his job is on the line, and Dave Tepper, is the owner, is not a guy that's going to wait around. I mean, we've seen that. I think he's fired. I think he owns the soccer team in that area too, and he's fired like 3 coaches too in that with that sport as well. So, I think if you're going to fire Frank Reich, you might as well just admit Bryce Young's not the guy and just start anew. If you're going to run it back with Frank Reich, then yeah, okay, give him one more year, see if he can really help Bryce Young along. But if you're moving on from Frank Reich after year 1, you might as well move on from Bryce Young at the end of year 1.
Final thing here. Dorian Thompson-Robinson has been named the starter for the Cleveland Browns this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The upcoming schedule for the Browns, Pittsburgh this week at home, at Denver, at LA for the Rams, and then against Jacksonville. Those are the next 4 games. Is this the right choice to go to DTR in this spot as opposed to going with P.J. Walker again? Was it time to go to the rookie? They're currently in the playoffs, man. This is a 6-3 team that is now starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
But they're in the playoffs because of their defense.
Fair.
And I don't think you have a good option in this. Frankly, your best option is probably signing somebody that's not on the team.
Matt Ryan.
Probably, sure.
I mean,
but that's your
Phillip
best
Rivers?
option. If your offense was if you were the Minnesota Vikings of last year and this happened, none of these guys would be the right option. But your team's in a playoff spot because of your
This
defense.
stupid team traded Josh Dobbs before the year.
Suckers!
And then lost Nick Chubb's like, oh, now what do we do? But yeah, it doesn't matter who you put as a quarterback. Both stink. You're going to be telling Myles Garrett and the rest of that defense, hey, you're the reason we make the playoffs, so go figure it out.
My guess is that they view him as more of a game manager than PJ Walker, because PJ Walker feels he has a little bit of like Gardner Minshew to him, but without the touchdowns and without the accuracy in terms of ball over a lot. Because I just looked this up. In his 3 starts this year, I thought this was the case. 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions. Ooh. He's just too loose with the football. He likes to sling it, and I think they're looking at this
DTR
going,
in 1 start, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
well, all right, well. Still
ain't
less
good,
than
man.
5. But that's kind of that was my assumption, was they view he can be more of a game manager and not turn the ball over as much as PJ Walker, and clearly that was just debunked.
Who do you guys think wins this weekend, Steelers or Browns?
Oh,
Browns are a
Pittsburgh.
1-point favorite at
Oh
home.
my God, I might take that in our pick 'em.
I actually might say the Browns on this one. I don't think as bad
Whoever's
as
defense scores more wins.
yeah. I mean, like Pittsburgh's offense stinks too because Kenny Pickett's not that great. I mean, at least Cleveland can just keep handing the ball off to Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford. Najee Harris hasn't been very good for Pittsburgh.
Had a good week last week. I think I would go Pittsburgh. I think I would go Pittsburgh. Now, the over-under in this one is set at 32.
Say it with your chest.
Under.
So they're basically a 17 to 16 game is what they're projecting here, which feels about right.
I'm going 14-10.
There's some
3-2.
interesting spreads in the NFL this week.
3-2. Could you imagine?
And Commanders is a 9.5-point favorite against the Giants.
That game,
Giants are down bad.
You
dude.
put
Is Dable going to lose his job?
No.
No, you just need to get competent
If
pieces.
he would have been bad last year, yes. Because they made the playoffs last year with a crap team and a crap quarterback that everybody tried to convince me was good, Yeah, he's going to go ahead and keep that job.
You put it Browns and Steelers tonight in Thursday Night Football. Al Michaels probably doesn't make it to the next week.
He probably doesn't show up.
Cowboys
Well,
are
I would
only
agree.
a 10-point favorite against the Panthers. We're doing this again? We're going to do this again?
I think I might hammer that one.
All right. We'll see how that goes. Coming up next, Alex says there are 2 reasons why the Blues will not fall into the Shark-style rebuild. He might even add a third in there for you if you're lucky.
Maybe
Coming
2
up
more.
next year on 101 ESPN.
Terry Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the San Jose Sharks, and we'll have pregame coverage starting at 8:30 with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Kerber for Puck Drop at 9:30. And earlier today, MLB owners approved the Oakland Athletics move to Las Vegas. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heat and air conditioning dealer.
That's Alex, he's T-Bone, and I'm BK. So how do the Blues avoid the terrible rebuild that is taking place right now out in San Jose? It's a question that we did talk a little bit about last year, Alex, because the Blues were coming off of a second-round loss in the playoffs. They had 109 points, and then, boom, everything craters. End up with 81 points. We all know how it goes. You pick in the top 10. Nothing went right last year. And the question was, is this going to become a rebuild versus a retool? Well, a similar spot happened with San Jose. In 2019, they finished the year with 101 points. The next season, it cratered. They finished last in their division, 63 points. Everything went to hell. And then all hell broke loose with the pandemic, and we all kind of know what took place from there, right? They've been bad ever since. Points by year as a team, 63, 49, 77, 60, and right now they are 2-13-1 on the season. It's getting worse before it gets better out there. And every team in the NHL is trying to avoid the pain that the Sharks are going through right now. Alex, you think that the Blues are going to be able to avoid that kind of a rebuild? What are the main reasons why you feel that way?
So I had two of them. I have three of them.
Okay.
And I'm not going to steal T-Bone's because T-Bone has one, and I'll let him have his shining moment with this.
I thought you took
No,
mine.
I'm not going to steal yours.
I was about to walk out, you know.
Well, okay, well, maybe I will steal yours now. The two that first came to mind was goaltending and your young stars. Kyrou and Thomas and Jordan Bennington. And really, you could throw Hofer in because you got your goaltending set up. What San Jose didn't have on the goaltending side of things was the next piece to take over for them. When they were good, it was Martin Jones. Like, you knew that they had the guy in place that was going to help them, and then they moved on from Martin Jones. And then you were thinking, well, what the hell are the San Jose Sharks going to do now? And let's look at what they have.
Dubnyk.
Yeah, exactly. And that wasn't very good for them. And now you don't
35.
have anything in your system. Whereas the Blues have Jordan Bennington, who we heard Joey talk about earlier, playing.
Aiden Hill.
Who?
They had Aiden Hill.
Also had Aaron Dell. That didn't work either. So Aiden, look, Aiden Hill is a product of his environment.
Is he?
Aiden Hill was a okay goaltender in San Jose because the defense was crap in front of him.
Why'd they let him go?
Because he wasn't this guy, because he also didn't have a legit defense in front of him. Sometimes that's how goaltending works. You put a good goaltender in front of a good team, they're good.
Is he talking about Aiden Hill or he's talking about Jordan Bennington? Could go either way.
I don't know.
You know how you said you hated me earlier? I hate you more
Sorry,
now.
go ahead.
But you got goaltending, and that's what San Jose didn't have. And the star power side of things, you're growing with Thomas and Kyrou. You've seen the evolution of those players. The problem for San Jose, and my third piece that goes into this, is a general manager who has the big picture. Because what San Jose did was they oversimplified things. Like, they had a roster in place that was trying to get it done, and they said, well, let's just keep adding to it. They brought in Erik Karlsson. They brought in all of these massive contracts, and guess what? You couldn't afford to keep Joe Pavelski, who was a pivotal piece of your team's success. You couldn't afford to keep Timo Meier, and you couldn't afford to keep Brent Burns. And then you dismantled that team because you had one guy that was getting paid $11.5 million. And that's not what Doug's doing. I know people look at this and say Doug Armstrong has not managed a successful team right now. Maybe he's made some poor decisions, but what he has done is what San Jose didn't do, where he kept saying, well, let's add to it, let's add to it. Doug Armstrong took the step back and said, you know what? We're going in the opposite direction that I think we need to be going. Let's move on from these pieces. Let's put pieces in place that surround Thomas and Kyrou's success, and let's start building towards what the next era is. And San Jose never did that.
The weird part is, like, as I look at what they had, they should have been able to build around Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, and Logan Couture, the way that the Blues have with Shin as their version of Couture, Timo Meyer is their version of Kyra. Obviously different players, but the winger that's a scorer. And then Hurdle should have been the center that was basically for them what Kyra or what Thomas has been for the Blues. Now, the ages don't line up one for one, obviously. It's not a early 20s and then the older guy. But it should have worked out that way for them.
But you know why it didn't?
Because of Carlson.
Yeah, they paid somebody $11.5 million to be a number one defenseman for them, and guess what? He's not. So you had no money. Guess what, guys? This is what Edmonton's going through right now. This is why Edmonton is in shambles. You've got the top dogs, but the problem is you're also paying $12 million to two guys in your second line. You're paying $9.5 million to a defenseman who probably shouldn't be making that much, and you have no money to go towards goaltending. San Jose had no extra money to keep Joe Pavelski in place. They had no extra money to build a competent defensive group rather than relying on Burns and Carlson, and no money to give to a goaltender.
I think the reason why I had a fear last year of the Blues, not getting to where the Sharks are right now, this is historically bad, man. But why I had a fear that they might have to go through a rebuild the way that the Sharks did eventually, where they finally came to the conclusion, okay, we're not spending our way out of this. We're going to have to take this massive step back. And at that point, they were already 2 years too late. It was all bad. The reason why I feared that, though, last year was because if you added up the salaries for Justin Falk, Torrey Krug, and Colton Parayko, who at that time, we got to remember, we were very down on all three. We were very down on all three. Alex was at least down on two of them. Those three combined to make up essentially what Carlson and Burns were making in San Jose. So it was 2 versus 3. I understand that there's one roster spot that you have to play with there, but those 3 guys combined were making $19.5 million. Burns plus Carlson were making $19 million combined. If those guys didn't have this kind of a bounce back year that we're watching right now, I think that's how you end up in a spot that the Sharks are in. Because then you're stuck. Because what do? You can't trade them because they're all no trade clauses and nobody's going to want to take him on, frankly, because they're making $6.5 million for many years to come. And now you're just sitting here waiting out these deals until they expire on your books. And that means you're waiting another 3 years before you're really able to move on in a meaningful way. So that was my fear. My fear was if these guys don't bounce back, the Blues are screwed. The reason why I think that they are able to sustain this, Alex, and why they're not going to have to go through that full-blown rebuild is because they have had a bounce back. You made a coaching change, the system changed, and boom, these guys are looking like they're, at a minimum, capable defensemen once again. So that would be my biggest reason. What else do you guys have that would be reasons why they're avoiding this?
And mine kind of ties into that. It's Parayko kind of taking his game to the next level. Because if you don't have Parayko step up and play as the number one defenseman that Alex had been telling us he was, well, then you're not only do you have him on the books, he's more of like a second pairing guy. You've got Krug and Falk on the books as well, who are second pairing guys. You're searching for the 2 number one defensemen, one on the right side and one on the left. Parayko looks like a legitimate number one defenseman right now. He is lifting Nick Leddy up with him, and that's no shot against Nick Leddy. But Nick Leddy's looking better right now because he's paired with Colton Parayko. That's what a number one defenseman does. That's what Alex Pietrangelo always did when he was here in St. Louis. You could put anybody with him, and you knew that he could cover for that guy. And Parayko is now playing like that guy. He truly looks like a number one defenseman. And now that you have him and you go, okay, we've got him, now we just got to find his partner. That's a lot easier than going, crap, we've got Colton Parayko making 6.5, playing second pairing minutes, and then we've got Krug and Falk on the third pairing. Oh, now we still got to find those top 2 guys.
Yeah, and I would add in Falk and Krug with this one, and I don't know what the future is with with Krug right now, but I mean, you've got a top 4 that's playing like a top 4, and what he said with the $6.5 million for Colton Parayko. $6.5 million for a guy that might not be considered a number one on all teams, but he is a top pair defenseman playing top pair minutes and looking like one. Absolutely. For $6.5 million. Edmonton's paying Darnell Nurse $9.5 million. San Jose was paying Erik Karlsson $11.5 million. That's cost controlled so you can spend money elsewhere. The way teams avoid these rebuilds are you actually have the players that you give the contracts to play up to that contract. And if you can play over what that contract is worth, well, now you're starting to be a competitive team, and San Jose never got that. I always thought the Blues could get there. We were skeptical last season because of Parayko, because of Binnington, because of the progress of Thomas and Kyrou, but look at the strides that they took. That's how you avoid the rebuild.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendricks, and I'm Brandon Kiley. Those rebuilding Sharks are taking on your St. Louis Blues tonight. Stalter's Sharks. That pregame
Stalter
coverage
Sharks.
is starting at 8:30. Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale will bring you that right here on your home of the Blues 101 ESPN, beginning at 8:30 with the puck drop. Whew! Set for 9:30 right here on your home of the
You guys
Blues
will be listening to me.
ESPN.
All of you will.
I'll be watching.
What are you going to be watching?
I'll be watching on TV, and I'll have 101
crap.
ESPN.
We know he won't be watching football because he doesn't like the Thursday night game.
I'll have that on the laptop. The big screen gets the Blues treatment.
You know
I
what?
mean, this is a big game, man.
Focus on
mean-
your baby boy right now, man. Don't worry about these games.
I hate to say it, Blues probably getting the laptop treatment from your boy tonight.
What?
It's the Sharks.
None of this should be any treatment. It should be radio treatment. You're listening to me at 8:30.
It's a teal garbage can skating around out there for the Sharks.
God, I really hope we're not BKOing the Blues game tonight.
Oh, dude, not even a BKO is strong enough for this one.
And there it was.
You know I love content.
I hate you.
The Sharks team is historically bad.
Not that content. Please, not at 9:30 at night. Not that
Let
kind
me-
of content.
Sharks,
Let me-
Sharks.
Let me look at what the Sharks have done this year when it comes to their points. So
They have 5. They have 5.
talking about points producing.
Oh,
from
okay.
their
I was
play.
going to say they have 5 points.
How many players, if we did a game with our listeners, how many players do you think our listeners would be able to name on this current Sharks team? Did you know that Mike Hoffman's on the Sharks?
He just scored his
I
first
do
goal of the
now.
season in the last game.
Hoffman,
I
Kessler,
think
Anthony
more than-
Duclair, we've talked about him
Anthony
as a
Duclair,
potential
yeah, he
Blue.
was
He's a
traded to
minus
Florida.
12 on the season.
Yeah.
Tomas Hurdle's still out there.
Hurdle,
He's
Guitar, as I
skating
said.
around.
Guitar.
Nico Sturm.
Yeah, it was a Ferrario 5 member. He was a fourth line guy. He's playing in their
Jan
top
Ruda,
6.
I've talked about him for sure as a potential Blues.
Tampa Bay Lightning
sixth
former.
defenseman
Mario
before.
Ferraro is on that team.
There you go.
Almost relative.
Close.
Almost. Just missing that vowel.
Sharks offered you a contract. I bet those guys now are looking at it going, I should have gone to the KHL.
God, their goalies have an 888 save percentage. I remember that life. Coming up next, time
Last
check
year.
at
Yeah,
the
Billy
Juncture
Husso.
on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, let's dive into the junk drawer. T-Bone, what do you got for us today?
So we know your boy, Travis Kelce, he's dating Taylor Swift, an international icon. The tour she's on, the Eras tour,
Just a national icon.
Hit theaters and has been like life-changing for people that have seen her in concert
Speaking
this
of
year.
that movie, did you go see it with a Travis Kelce jersey on?
No, I'm planning to, though.
But is it still in theaters?
I'm sure.
That doesn't exit theaters that fast.
True. Did really well in theaters. Anyways, I think we're getting to the point where we're reaching the boiling point on the whole Taylor Swift international icon thing. Because there is a cruise line that is preparing to announce a 4-day Taylor Swift themed cruise.
Oh, hell yeah.
Too much. I'm out.
This is a cash cow
Who's
right
doing
here.
It was, where'd the company go?
It's got to be Carnival.
No, it's not Carnival. Royal Caribbean.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. Let's go. We got to get involved. How do we do this?
How do you have a Taylor Swift cruise?
I mean, you obviously would just play the music the entire time that
So
you're
it's
there.
just a cruise with Taylor
words.
Swift music?
You're on
Yeah,
a
I'm sure
floating
there's something
hellbox
else.
for 4 days.
Oh, yeah. I would go insane.
Yeah, I'm
Taylor
out.
Swift trivia?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Taylor Swift bingo.
Is Travis Kelce a part of the cruise, though?
He should be.
It should be a
If
Chief.
he's not, he should be.
If it should be a Chiefs and Taylor Swift themed cruise.
The trip will celebrate Taylor together, celebrating all things Taylor Swift. Join us as we celebrate all things Taylor, make new friends, dress up in our favorite eras, trade friendship bracelets, and everything about this amazing ship that it has to offer.
Yeah, I'm out.
This screams Brandon
I already don't like cruises, and this makes it even worse.
The trip will set sail for the Bahamas on October of 2024 from Miami.
Their
The
slogan
day after the last night that Taylor will be in the city. Of course.
their slogan can be if the cruise doesn't make you sick, then Taylor Swift will.
There will be Taylor Swift trivia and karaoke.
Wasn't great.
There, see?
Cocktail parties, everything you need
So
for a
it's-
swift trip abroad.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's
a good
That's
one.
good marketing.
So it's essentially just a cruise with Taylor Swift music.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool.
And friendship bracelets.
By the way, why don't we have like friendship bracelets?
I got one. My daughter made me one.
We do. We
Not
call-
a Taylor Swift
We use
one.
them as hats, though. Do you guys know where our hats are?
Yeah, right over there.
Cool. Because coming up next,
Oh, that was a transition. Hold on.
You old guys okay over there?
it's time. It's been a few days
Hold on, I
for the latest edition
gotta get on my saddle.
of the Major League Baseball free agency
Roundup! Yeah!
here on 101 ESPN. He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. That was outstanding. It is time for our Major League Baseball Roundup.
I wasn't going to use the yeehaw again.
ESPN.
There was two yeehaws in the same
No, that's fair.
sentence.
I understand. All right, let's start out with the obvious. We got to give you the latest update on Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei the money!
According to a report from Ken Rosenthal, the Blue Jays could be a potential sleeper in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. We have heard about the Mets, the Yankees, the Angels, the Giants, the Cubs, the Rangers. Now the Blue Jays appear to be throwing their hat into the ring. Do you guys think there's
No.
How many teams do you think actually have a real shot at Shohei Ohtani?
5.
Sounds about right.
Giants, Cubs, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox. No, the Angels don't have a chance.
Oh, I
Red
think
Sox
they've got
are
a
good.
chance.
No, I think the Angels are done.
Shohei seems like the kind of guy that likes cheese pizza, which means he doesn't want to move his stuff.
Guess what? Everybody's got cheese pizza. And there's moving companies for your stuff. Shohei is Dunze.
No, that was terrible.
That was. I just add A to the end
Where
of
do you
everything.
think he ends up going? Like, if you had to guess today, obviously this is nothing more than pure speculation. We're way too early in the offseason to know for sure. But where do you think that he ends up?
I think he goes to the Cubs. I think the Cubs are going to be an intriguing team to him.
I don't know if he has much interest in the Cubs, though. Like, they've been connected to him, so is Toronto. But I think he wants to be on a coast. I think he's going to end up going to the Dodgers still. And that's not a Dodgers move, and they still have to add a ton of pitching, but I think he's still going to LA. It's just he's not gonna have to move his stuff very far. So I'm gonna go he's a Dodger.
I think he's with the Angels.
I kind of think that too. But
I think he just stays with LA. I think he sticks in LA, but I think he goes back to the Angels. I know it sounds crazy.
his press conference
But
about
dude,
cheese pizza.
He has everything he wants. Like,
Has he tried
anything
emos?
he wants to do, he gets in LA. If he doesn't want to meet with the media, guess what? They say, Shohei, you're good. You don't have to meet with the media. He met with them like twice last year. He barely even meets with them after starts.
You wouldn't have to meet with him here.
No, I want to talk to him.
No, he could sneak his way
Gets
out.
the out of your Molina treatment.
Yeah,
where
you
it's
just sneak your way out. Nah, you don't need him,
it's all
right?
It's cool. I think he ends up back with the Angels. It'll be crazy to everybody involved, and I understand that, but I think that's where he ends up. And let's stick with the Angels as we continue with our Major League Baseball free agency.
Roundup, let's dance, partner.
According to another report, this one coming from Alden Gonzalez of ESPN.com.
Oh, Alden.
Alden.
The Angels are expected to be aggressive this offseason. Quote, we are not planning to rebuild. Instead, we want to continue winning. Ron Washington had his introductory press conference and
I have a
said
question.
basically like, hey, we're going to win around here. We're going to get everything fixed out here in LA. T-Bone?
Bartender, what is this winning they're talking about? Because they haven't won with them. So how are we defining winning? Because last time I checked, you got to be above 500 to call it a winning season.
Also, follow-up question: Does your answer change that we're not a rebuilding team when Ohtani says, "Yeah, bleep LA"?
The problem is, like, I don't know how long Ohtani's going to be waiting. Maybe he's the first one to sign. Maybe he waits until January. Like, a lot of the time what we see is the top free agents on the market, especially position players, they last a while. Like, the shortstop market took a little bit to develop last year. I remember when Machado and Harper were available, that one lasted well into the winter. So if you're the Angels and you're starting with your free agency moves, you might do so with the anticipation that Shohei is still considering you without the knowledge of Shohei for sure picking you going into the next season. So they might have to like double down on the idea of Shohei coming back before Shohei actually returns to their roster. Let's continue with some Major League Baseball free agency.
Roundup, yeah!
So in the Blake Snell sweepstakes, we know of 3 teams that are for sure interested in Snell. You ready for these?
The Cardinals,
The Padres, the Dodgers,
Cardinals,
and the Giants. According to John Heyman of the New York Post, he says that those are 3 teams that are absolutely interested in free agent left-handed pitcher Blake Snell. Snell, of course, last night won his 2nd Cy Young. He's one of 7 pitchers to win a Cy Young in both the American League and the National League. Alex, if you had to guess today where he ends up going, where would you say he is pitching in 2024?
I think he's going to be pitching in Philadelphia. And I I think that they don't bring back Nola, and I think Philadelphia says, let's throw all of the money at a legit number one guy to play with another number one guy. That's the team that I could see him going to, and throwing buku monies at too if you're Philadelphia.
I'm starting to wonder, there's like no reporting to this, but it's such a Dombrowski move where it is, hey, I'm going to sink the ship, and as we're going down, then I'm going to abandon. I think they're going to be in the trade market. I think they're going to be the team that may try and target Cease. I think Snell's going to end up going to, I don't see San Diego. I think that's just like reporting to drive up the market.
I know it's crass to do this soon after somebody's passed, but their owner passing away, I really think is a big deal going into this offseason. And I think it could change the trajectory for multiple teams, what they're going to do. I don't think Snell's going to go back to San Diego. I absolutely now think Juan Soto gets traded. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's other big moves to shed salary from their books. I think a lot of why they were going all in is because their owner wanted to win. It sucks, man. I feel terrible for the Padres fans, for Seidler. Like, it's brutal, but I do think that makes it much less likely that Blake Snell ends up back with the Padres.
I don't have a good guess for where Snell goes because I don't think it's San Diego. San Fran doesn't make sense because they need they need innings guys. They need to be able to eat innings. They had no rotation last year, so I don't think he would fit in. I think Giants fans, who are basically the West Coast version of the Cardinals fan base, would hate Blake Snell. I don't know where he goes. I don't think the Mets are bringing him in. I don't think the Yankees will do it. I may lean towards the Dodgers again. I think they're going to be super aggressive, and if they land Ohtani, they still need to add a starter probably, and they may say Blake Snell's the guy for us.
But the Red Sox, I think they end up missing out on Shohei Ohtani and turn their attention to one of the top starters, and I think Blake Snell might be a guy that ends up there. I think the Red Sox are going to throw around some money this offseason. I'm pretty confident of that. And they just hired a guy to be the head of their baseball operations who's a pitcher. He's going to invest in pitching this offseason, and they need it. They need it in Boston. So it's risky. After the David Price saga, do they want to go back to this well with Blake Snell? I don't know, but I could see them being the team that ends up going all in for him and saying, we're going to throw our hat into the Blake Snell market.
Ma'am.
As we continue with our Major League Baseball free agency.
Roundup draw, T-Bone.
The Yankees have reportedly engaged the Rays in multiple conversations this offseason relating to outfielder Manuel Margot. This is the guy that we talked about a couple of days ago. He's the center fielder / right fielder, more of a corner outfielder.
/DH/ probably
the Tampa Bay Rays. Apparently, the Mets have also called the Rays about Margot. We talked about this a couple of days ago, but I am curious. Do you guys have any interest if the Cardinals were to trade Tommy Edman in a deal to bring in a guy like Margot to potentially play in the outfield for you?
No.
Okay.
He's not even good defensively, right?
He's okay.
And his bat's...
It's okay.
Cool. So you're getting okay for okay with somebody who's already okay, but at least good defensively.
I would rather keep Dylan Carlson.
You said Tommy Edman.
I know. I would rather keep Dylan Carlson to be the replacement.
Oh, I gotcha.
Than Margot. But do you guys have...
You trade Tommy Edman, you really don't have a center fielder.
Do you guys have a thought on what the Rays are going to do to shed payroll this offseason? We think it's going to be glass now, right?
I think. And if they don't, they'll lose some money off the books with Franco suspension. I can't remember. They have somebody else that I've seen connected in the trade rumor mill. I can't remember who it was now, but Margot's definitely going to be one.
Yandy Diaz is a guy that some have talked about.
I thought he was locked up.
He is, but I mean, you know how they
you shed salary. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You may have a contract that's like a college football coach's contract. You could be gone at any moment. Yeah, I would assume Glass now. He's he's the easiest guy to circle and say, here's how you save money. Because I agree with you when we talked about this. Would it make sense to hold on to him potentially for the deadline? Kind of, but then you run the risk of him getting hurt. So they're going to have to make the move. They're probably going to wait till those top three guys sign, and then they'll say, okay, let's get the bidding war going because he ain't going for cheap.
And the last thing here as we go through our Major League Baseball free agency.
Roundup, yeah!
Pew, 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 pew,
Ride
pew.
like the wind, bullseye.
Nice.
Got it.
The Cubs, according to Jesse Rogers, are setting their sights on Shohei Ohtani. We began with Shohei, we end with Shohei. Let's be honest, he's the North Star for this offseason for most of Major League Baseball. What do you think the reaction would be here in St. Louis if the Cubs ended up signing Shohei Ohtani?
Oh no, we suck again.
Well, that might be with or without Shohei signing with the Cubs. It's going to be that the Cardinals aren't willing to spend money. You've got another team in the NL Central that's willing to say we're ready to go for it and throw all of the money at the player. Meanwhile, people will look at the Cardinals and say, see, they're passive aggressive once again. They're just going to run it back. Now, that's going to be saying without knowing what the rest of the moves will be by the Cardinals, but it's going to piss people off.
Yeah, I think it will be viewed as one in two ways. If the Cardinals haven't made a signing yet, they're going to go, oh my gosh, you've really got to spend money to compete with the Cubs. If we're going to win the Central, we got to spend money. And the secondary is maybe they have signed somebody. They've signed that second-tier starter first. Cardinals fans will go, well, great, that's our number one, and he won't be able to get Ohtani out. So short answer here is they will panic.
And I think it'll be deserved. Yeah. Shohei Ohtani's obviously an incredible player. And like for this upcoming year, you got to worry about his bat. Yeah. Moving forward, you got to worry about both. You got to be able to hit him, which the Cardinals did this year, by the way. They did very well against Shohei Ohtani.
It was
in the
an
game
off
that they
night.
played. They also struck out, I think it was 13 times. But they ended up putting together enough runs to make it work.
I remember that game so clearly because I remember someone going, so, Holly, what were your thoughts on your offense tonight? They won against Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, it was amazing. So I think that there will be some legitimate panic, and it will be totally deserved. I said that was the last thing. We got a text in that I think we have to respond to.
Oh, yeah.
From the 636. Guys, I read yesterday that Nootbaar is talking to Yamamoto's parents, specifically his mom, about coming to St. Louis. They talk to each other every day. Nootbaar played with him in the World Baseball Classic. Do you think this is going to be a connection that works out well for the Cardinals?
Someone also just texted and said apparently they're playing golf together as we speak. And there's no better way.
Yamamoto?
And there's no better. Well, that or Newt and Yamamoto's mom. I'm not really sure. They just said they're playing together. But what better way to sway somebody to join your team than to play golf with them? Everything good happens on the golf course.
Yeah. I don't think Cardinals getting Yamamoto. Unless you really just want one starter, but what no bullpen arm and no other two starters.
But what if his mom tells him? Nootbaar's mom called me and said they want you to play with Lars. Can you just go there for a year and then go to another team?
What? How much whiskey you had at the bar tonight?
A lot. It's moonshine.
The saloon, man. Come on.
Saloon.
It's moonshine.
We drink at saloons.
Damn,
here.
it's moonshine.
I don't think that Yamamoto's coming here.
He'd rob our bank.
I don't think the Cardinals are going to
Put him in the old jail cell then.
I'm the most optimistic one that the Cardinals are going to spend the money that's necessary of the three of us and probably of everybody here in St. Louis. I don't think there's any chance in hell they sign Yamamoto. No chance. You want to talk about Nola? You want to talk about Snell? Some of these other guys that are out there? Sure.
No. Let's keep
Yamamoto,
going.
let's not be ridiculous.
Someone sent in a picture. Apparently, Newt and Yamamoto, along with Shohei, are all at an Emo's Pizza. This might be photoshopped. Looks like it's photoshopped, but hey, they're out of Emo's Pizza together.
Oh, wow. It's weird. Shohei decided to wear his Angels jersey to Emo's today.
Well, and Yamamoto's wearing his Team Japan jersey.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Crazy that he just wears that and comes to St. Louis.
What's Newt wearing?
Team Japan T-shirt.
Oh, interesting.
So all
Is
of
that a
them.
White Sox jersey?
Well, and it's weird because like you think Shohei would just match. What happened?
He just traded Newt.
Well, I would too.
Would you trade Newt for Cease?
Sure.
Yeah.
Then the Cardinals' outfield defense would cease to exist.
Coming up
That was
next.
good. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
That was our Major League Baseball free agency.
Roundupppp! Somebody's poisoned the water hole.
Slew is just getting absolutely destroyed right now.
Oh, there's a snake in my booth.
By Wyoming.
Yeah, it's not good, man.
Oh, it's only 14-6. What do you mean? I thought I was going to turn around to be down like 30.
Hey, Slew's 3-0 on the season. You keep your mouth shut.
Give it
I
time.
mean, they've been
Coming
a
up
Division
next,
III school.
does the Travis Sanheim Renaissance up in Philadelphia give you confidence that if Doug Armstrong wants to go back to the trade route, he will find the next big piece that is necessary for this Blues team? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So during the offseason, we thought it wouldn't be Torrey Krug having his renaissance here in St. Louis. We thought it was going to be Travis Sanheim, who the Blues at the time were attempting to trade for. He's the defenseman from the Philadelphia Flyers, 6'4", 220 pounds, big dude, young, good player. But last year had a bit of a down season, and he signed to this long-term contract, and so Philly, before his no-trade clause kicked in, they were trying to send him elsewhere. We know how it all goes. Torrey Krug ends up nixing the deal, and he stays here. Sanheim stays in Philadelphia. Well, Alex, up in Philadelphia, Travis Sanheim is 27 years old, and he has 14 points as a defenseman in his first 16 games of the season. He is so far this year playing an average of 26 minutes per night on the ice, and he's looking like one of the better defensemen in the NHL once again. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because this is a guy that the Blues were trying to buy low on. They were buying really low on him, actually. Does it give you confidence that Doug Armstrong will be able to target the next guy that could potentially have this kind of an effect to your team, knowing that he tried to do it with Sanheim?
Absolutely does. And if there's ever been an area that this Blues team has had success in from start to finish, it's when Doug Armstrong has pulled the trigger on a trade, because he typically knows and identifies the correct guy that matches the team's need. And he's done it since he's been here. But if we're going to go the Sanheim route, look at him. I mean, they went for Sanheim because they wanted somebody who could play with Colton Parayko. And Sanheim is playing like Colton Parayko. And remember, all of us, me included, because I thought he was the right guy, we talked about Ivan Provorov as the guy for the Blues to target from Philadelphia. Well, he's since been traded to Columbus, and he's got 7 assists in 16 games and is a -9. Meanwhile, Travis Sanheim is on this renaissance, as you mentioned. But it goes beyond that.
By the way, they were apparently in on Konechny as well, who has 10 goals in the first 16 games of the season and is playing his ass off for the Flyers.
And let's go back to the trade deadline when the Blues acquired Nick Leddy. First of all, it was the right move to acquire Nick Leddy because he helped them in that series, nearly beat Colorado. Contract extension, we can have a different discussion. But prior to them acquiring Nick Leddy, they were nearly there in acquiring Hampus Lindholm from the Anaheim Ducks. And Hampus Lindholm has been the #1 dude for the Boston Bruins right now. Pavel Buchnevich, they identified that player as somebody who they'd buy low on and strike a hot deal with. He's been great since. For this Blues team, if the Blues are going to get out of this retool, Doug Armstrong is going to have to make one of those moves once again. And if I've ever had faith in one individual of targeting a player from another team that might be an unsung hero for that squad, but he just hasn't lived up to his potential, Doug Armstrong acquiring him tells you that they're getting the right guy.
So let's take this a step further. As you think big picture-wise, and let's assume that this year kind of continues the way that it has so far. They're third, fourth best team in the West or in the Central Division, end up making the playoffs, but it's not a Stanley Cup contender. They're a team that just makes the playoffs and then kind of slides their way out of the playoffs. What is the next step in your mind out of a retool? Is it a big free agency splash? Is it a trade that they decide to make? Are you just waiting on prospects? Like, is the timeline, hey, we're going to be in this retool for the next couple of years, and then by year 3 of it, maybe then we start really taking a step forward. What do you think that the next path is out of this?
I would say it's more trade than free agent signing, but I think it's one of those two. The path out of this retool, yeah, it can be waiting for these prospects to develop, but in my opinion, you waiting for prospects to develop puts you in a position where you might be waiting 3 years in the same retool. If I look at some of the teams that the Blues are trying to emulate, let's look at the New Jersey Devils, let's look at the LA Kings. When they exited out of that retool and started to put themselves as a premier team that was ready to make a run, what did they do? They made significant trades. New Jersey got Timo Meier last offseason, and now they look like a dominant team minus them losing Jack Hughes. When the LA Kings were ready to exit out of their retool, first they acquired Kevin Fiala from the Minnesota Wild, but then they just acquired Pierre-Luc Dubois. So when teams are ready to step into that consistent top threat team, they're always willing to make that big move and not willing to wait around anymore. So for the Blues, as much as we're talking about all of these guys having this next step, and Doug Armstrong had a great piece with Frank Saravalli on Daily Faceoff of a black and white view of this rebuild, when you're ready to take that aggressive move to say, let's make a trade for Noah Hannafin, or let's sign William Nylander, That's when you're saying, we believe this team that we have in place is ready to take the next step, and now we need to add that final piece. It's not waiting for Snuggerud and Dvorsky. Those are just extras that become a part of that continued success by a team.
So Doug Armstrong was on earlier today with Frank Saravalli. He was on with his podcast, and I thought it was a really good conversation, honestly, about his history, how he views the Blues right now, what the future holds, all of this. So if you want to check it out, it's worth your time, I think. It's Frankly Speaking. It's a podcast with Frank Saravalli, and if you just search Doug Armstrong, you'll see for today's episode. He was asked about the Blues' current timeline, Alex. What is this? Are you going to rebuild, retool? What's the timeline look like? Here's what Doug Armstrong had to say about kind of basically the question that we just talked about.
You know, we're not looking to put a small Band-Aid on a big wound. And so we're going to do what we think is right, short, and long term.
So what is the timeline then?
I've said, I think the LA rebuild is something that I thought Rob Blake did a great job. It could be a year or two, could be 3. But I said it's not, if it's 8, 9, 10, 11, then we failed.
The LA Kings essentially had a 3-year rebuild, Alex. And there was some pain in there. Like the Kings rebuild, I think was harder than what we're currently experiencing here in St. Louis.
Absolutely.
So they lose in the first round of the postseason in 2018. That team had 98 points, and then the rebuild begins. The next year, 71 points. It drops down. They're last place in their division. Fire the coach. Gotta try to piece this thing together a different way. The next season, 64 points, man. Just brutal. Just tough way all the way around. That was a pandemic-shortened season. And then the following year, 2020-21, where it's a shortened season once again, they finished that season with 49 points. And then, boom, back into the playoffs the following year. Do you think that's what we're looking at? Because we're in year 2 of that right now, if that ends up being the case. Do you think that's what we're going to see, or do you think we can do this quicker here in St. Louis?
I think you could do it quicker in terms of making the playoffs, because I think year 2 you could be a playoff team, and LA wasn't a playoff team in year 2. They just missed, or they fell apart towards the end of the season.
Yeah, they were 7th in their division.
But I think you could be a playoff team in year 2, but I don't know if you're in the same spot as the LA Kings in year 3. Year 3, I think you're once again just a playoff team. I think that the timeline that Doug Armstrong is talking about, what I just mentioned of being aggressive and making that big move, 2022, yeah, that's that year 3. 2022 was when the LA Kings traded for Kevin Fiala. That was okay, we're ready to start competing. 2023, this offseason, was them trading for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Yep. So this year, I see it being faster than LA because I do think they're a playoff team. And a lot of that is a credit to the players for getting their heads right. I think Doug probably thought this year wasn't going to be a playoff team, but then, of course, they changed your mindset. So, year 3, you're becoming more of that threat.
I've got a follow-up question for you then. If that's the timeline that you expect this to be, do you trade assets at the deadline then? And what I mean by that is,
I was going to say, define assets.
Expiring deals. So if you go into the trade deadline this year and you're looking like a playoff team, not one that's going to make any type of like a long run or anything, but you're in that wild card 3rd place in the division type of mix. Do you consider trading Kasperi Kapanen if he's still playing well? Do you consider trading Jakub Vrana if he's still playing well? Do you consider trading Sammy Blais or Oscar Sundqvist or Marco Scandella or Robert Bortuzzo? All of the players that I just mentioned are pending UFAs. Do you consider moving on from them, even though you know that's going to make your team worse? You're going to take a step back this year because of it. But you could accumulate some assets for the long-term health of your organization. How do you view that?
I break them up into parts. Kapanen and Sundqvist and Blais, I wouldn't, because I would be talking to them about an extension. Because to me, they'll be pieces of this exit out of the retool and being competitive again. But the problem is, do they match what Doug Armstrong matches in terms of value for this team? If they don't, then yeah, I'd probably consider moving them. Those other guys, absolutely. And as much as I could say, like, let's say Jakub Vrana becomes this 20-goal scorer that we were talking about at the beginning of the season by the trade deadline. If somebody's calling me willing to offer an asset for Jakub Vrana, I'm going to take it. Because as much as I feel like it will impact my team for the rest of this season, one, I'll expect my internal pieces to take that step forward. Maybe Bolduc's ready to take that next step. Once college ends, maybe Snuggerud steps in and plays that Jakub Vrana role. but he's not a part of my team beyond this season because you're not going to be able to re-sign Verana, and he's not the big picture here for the Blues. Same can be said about Marco Scandella, and I hate it, but same can be said about Robert Bortuzzo. Those pieces, to me, if somebody's willing to offer something more that I value, yeah, I'll take it because it's just an added bonus. They're not here beyond this season.
I know people are going to get mad at what you just said, but it's more than reasonable.
Because the picks you're going to get for these guys aren't impacting you for the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, I'm talking about moving anybody. If this team is in it at the deadline and they move on from pieces, Blues fans are going to be mad. They are. And I kind of understand it because this is a team that, based on the way they've been playing recently, like you look at it, you're like, man, this is a pretty fun team. They're building something together. They clearly like playing with one another. And it will potentially be devastating in terms of just the overall mentality if they trade some of these guys that they've grown accustomed to playing with. That being said, man, this is what a retool really looks like. If they believe they are still in like the first part of the process of retooling this thing to be a contender 2 or 3 years from now, what you probably do at the deadline is move on from the guys that you're not re-signing. And that's going to feel weird. It's going to feel kind of icky. But that's the way that it's probably going to go. But if they look like a real contender, then you don't do what we're talking about here. If this is a team that looks like, hey, we've got a goalie that's standing on his head the way that Bennington has all year. Thomas and Kyrou have taken this next step. They're legitimate top-line players. Booch is back to being the player that he was 2 years ago. And we think that our middle six is good enough to be able to keep up with some of these teams around the West. And oh, by the way, nobody in the West has really taken that step to being like a serious contender the way that we've seen over the last couple of years. Well, in that scenario, yeah, you keep it together, you take your shot, and you see what it looks like. A lot of this comes down to what the assets are that you could get in return. If Kapanen keeps playing like this and you're a middling team and you could get something legit for him, man, that's going to be something that is a really hard discussion for Doug Armstrong as he gets closer to the trade deadline.
Yeah.
None of that's a big concern right now. Still plenty of time, 3 months before we get there, but it's something that'll probably be in the back of the mind of the front office as they continue progressing here. Coming up next, believe it or not, here on 101 ESPN.
Tara Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the San Jose Sharks. And we'll have pregame coverage starting at 8:30 tonight with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey will join Chris Gerber for puck drop at 9:30. This Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, Mucinex, let's see what you got. Hold on, I gotta put my microphone's broken.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free.
No.
Flying away on a wing and a prayer.
Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. For believe it or not.
We're good.
You give us a scenario, we will tell you if we are believing it or not. Let's start out with this one, boys. Believe it or not, Shohei Ohtani is the first player to sign this offseason.
Not. I think he's going to take a while. I think I don't know who the first will be. It'll probably be some small
Sonny Gray.
rinky-dink deal.
I think it's Sonny Gray.
Wish you would finish it before I said some small rinky-dink deal, because that's the Cardinals signing.
Let me ask you this one. Sonny Gray signs before a trade happens.
Yeah. I think Sonny Gray is going to sign before Thanksgiving.
I think Sonny Gray is going to be like one of the last guys to sign.
You're going to be thankful for Sonny when Thanksgiving comes
It would have
around.
been better if you would have said you'll be thankful for Son.
So I think Sonny Gray is going to be a Cardinal this time next week.
Man, imagine Thanksgiving. We'll all give thanks.
I should put this on the back end. This is pure speculation by me. This is not informed. This is just reckless speculation because that's what we do here. But yeah, I think Sonny Gray is going to be a Cardinal.
I think it'll be a Brave. And the Cardinals will be like, oh, man.
We were never shopping in that tier.
He was our guy. Well, we had to be prudent with our money and decisions.
Sonny
and Sonny Gray.
will be a Brave.
Philly.
Blake Snell will go to Boston. Aaron Nola will stay in Philadelphia. Jordan Montgomery will stick in Texas. Who else is there?
Okay, so we'll do this.
Eduardo Rodriguez. He'll be a Cardinal.
No, he's going to stay in Detroit. Makes life easier.
Always forget about
We're
it.
doing this, though, so I'll give
He's
you
the
mine.
most forgettable free agent. There's no doubt about it.
I'll give you mine on this one. I say Aaron Nola goes to Atlanta. Blake Snell goes to Philly. Sonny Gray goes to St. Louis.
I like that.
Jordan Montgomery goes back to the Yankees.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
And Eduardo Rodriguez stays at Detroit. And Shohei goes to Boston.
I think Eduardo ends up with, like, the Reds.
That makes sense.
Nah, the Reds aren't willing to spend money right now.
I think because it's like the mid-tier starter. I could see something like that. The guy that I fear the Cardinals are going to go out there and get is Lucas Giolito. If you want me to be honest. If they miss out on Sonny Gray, my biggest fear is that they give like a 4-year, $50 million deal to Lucas Giolito. Or 4 years, $60 million to Lucas Giolito.
Yeah. Take on a project that we can fix and give them 4 years.
That's my biggest concern about
And I'll
this
have to
offseason.
hear this freaking team justify how one of the 4 years was successful.
I would rather go to whatever the lengths are to get Aaron Nola or Blake Snell as opposed to doing that on a multi-year deal for Lucas Giolito. That is my genuine biggest concern going into the offseason.
Well, the first 3 years of this deal were bad. Yeah,
If
but
they
did you
do
see
that,
year
by the
4?
way, if they sign Lucas Giolito and they didn't try to pick him up at the waiver deadline, you should all be furious. Absolutely furious if they decide to do that.
Look, I was the biggest Giolito supporter in the state of Missouri. I don't want that guy no more.
I don't even like he's fine if you could get him on a 1 or a 2 year deal.
You don't want Giolito, no Mo?
Yeah.
Mo, Missouri. Or Mo, John Mozeliak.
I was going to go to Alex. T-Bone, what do you got for us?
Whoa! Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Believe it or not, the NL Central will have 3 playoff teams next year.
Not believe this.
Cardinals not going to make it.
Yeah.
I've got 2.
Cardinals
I think
and
the
Cubs.
Cardinals and the
Reds.
Cubs will end up being playoff teams next
Cubs and Reds.
year. Cardinals winning the division with 105 wins. Cubs getting to 93.
Man, that Mucinex is kicking your butt.
Dude, you are like cooling on the Mucinex.
I think that they both get in, and I think it's like 92 and 93 wins. I think they're both like around a 90 to 95 win team.
See, I think I would believe this because I think the Reds are. I think we're getting close. I said this earlier this week or last week. I can't remember. I think we're getting close to getting back to that. Maybe not to the extent where 3 teams win 100 games, but I could see where 3 teams, the Reds, Cubs, and Cardinals, could be winning 90 games in 2 years from now. Maybe next year the Reds don't fully get to that capacity. They're kind of on the fringe, but they still get into the playoffs. I think the NL is going to take a potential step back significantly. I mean, you look at the Diamondbacks, who are a playoff team, like they've got a lot of question marks going into the year. The Padres, their future's up in the air right now. The Mets, I don't know if they're going to do enough to get themselves back into the playoff picture. Phillies, we'll see. I mean, it's a big replacement to replace an Aaron Nola if you let him walk.
I think you'll still have the Phillies and Braves. I think Arizona's going to be there, and I think LA gets back there. And then you'll have one team from the Central, which will probably be the Cubs, depending on what they do.
Yeah, maybe.
Believe it or not, guys, Colton Parayko finishes the season better than +10 and plus-minus rating.
What's he at right now?
It's +1. 2 goals and 4 points in 14 games.
He should be like a +6 tonight, so that'll help.
If he's not.
Justin Falk's a +12, Torrey Krug +8.
By the way, Justin Falk being a +12, he's like top 10 among defensemen.
Again, 2 out of the last 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say not, because he's getting all of the most difficult matchups that you could possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the opposing team's top line is out there, if they have an opportunity to put Parayko on the ice, they're probably going to, especially if it's a defensive zone face-off, those kinds of things. So I'll say not, but it's not because I don't think that Parayko's been good this year. I do. It's just that he's got one of the most difficult roles of any NHL defenseman. So
yeah,
he was the +1 defenseman in 21-22, right? Who was his partner then?
Pick your poison.
Scandella.
I mean, they got Nick Leddy.
I mean, he finished at a +16 that year.
That was Mikkola, Scandella, Wallman.
Yeah, he can do it with them. He can do it with Leddy.
I was just looking. Sorry, go ahead, T-Bone.
I'll believe it just because though the reason I hesitate was every reason that BK just said. But I think he could be on the ice, help get a breakout. I mean, hell, if he does the play he did in the last game where he just shoots all the way up the ice, gets the puck and scores, yeah. But I'll believe it. I'll go on the positive side. I think he can get there.
I don't think he'll have 10 goals like he did in this season that I'm about to bring up. But if he finishes the year with 28 points and is a +8, would you call that a great season for him?
Say it again.
28 points and a +8.
I mean, it depends. So much of his, I don't care about his points.
I know. I just, it was the stat line he had the year following them winning the cup, and he was playing like a top defenseman then.
Yeah, it's so hard to judge him with the numbers, honestly. It's more about, like, when he's on the ice, is he making an impact? Is he looking the way that you expect him to? And so far this year, my answer to all of those questions is yes. So he could finish the year with 20 points and is a +3 on the year. And he might be exactly what we wanted him to be, but because he's in a difficult role and he's not putting up a bunch of points, people will look at it, and if you're just looking at the numbers, you'll say to yourself, not a great year. But if you're watching the games, he might very well have had a great season.
He's only got 2 penalties taken so far this season. Think about that. Like, you're playing 24 minutes a night, and you've taken 2 penalties all season. That's impressive also in itself.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. You give us a scenario. We'll tell you if we are believing it or not from the 636. Guys, believe it or not, Craig Counsell is to baseball what Mike Tomlin is to the NFL. No matter the roster, both will somehow find their teams in the playoffs by the end of the year. It's an interesting comparison, honestly.
Part of me wonders if that's why he stayed in the NL Central. Because, like, if you go anywhere else, you're not going to be able to be that guy. The narrative changes if you go to, let's say you go to San Francisco, or if you go to the Mets. Like, that narrative changes because you're not going to be able to compete with those best teams. Whereas in the NL Central, you're going to stay in a division where your team spends the most money out of anybody out there, and you're going to have at least a decent chance every season to be in the postseason like you were with Milwaukee. So I'm going to say not believe this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to believe it either, because we've seen that Counsell can still miss the playoffs. Tomlin, gets a roster, and like this year's squad feels like a 6-win team, and they're in the race in the AFC North. Counsell's done a pretty good job, but he's got a couple of decent rosters to the playoffs, but he's also had a couple decent rosters that missed, like 21 or 22 where they missed by a handful of games. Here they traded Hader. Like, he couldn't overcome that. So I'm not going to believe this. It's close, though. I do like the comp.
I'm not going to believe it either, just because it's hard for me to compare anybody to Mike Tomlin. That guy is a Hall of Fame coach. He's amazing. And you could give him basically any roster in the league, and I would genuinely believe he will find a way to get to 8 wins, because that's just what he does. He never has bad seasons. So I'm not going to do it, because I also think it's just harder to do that as a manager in baseball than it is as a head coach in the NFL. All right, next one up. Believe it or not, Jordan Montgomery is a better pitcher than Sonny Gray.
Does this mean like overall or this coming season?
I don't know. From the text line.
Like if we go this coming season.
So let me go by year just to give some context here. 2020, Jordan Montgomery, 44 innings, 5.1 ERA. For Sonny Gray, 2020, 56 innings, 3.7. So Sonny Gray was better in 20. In 21, Jordan Montgomery, 157 innings, 3.8 ERA. That same year, Sonny Gray, 135 innings, 4.1 ERA. So better year for Jordan Montgomery. 22, 3.5 ERA and 175 innings for Jordan Montgomery. And for Sonny Gray in 22, 119 innings, so not the same number of innings, but finished with a 3.1 ERA. So if you want the innings, you'd go Montgomery. If you want the ERA, you'd go Sonny Gray there. And then last season, it was no doubt about it. It was just a better year for Sonny Gray. They're pretty close. I would rather have Sonny Gray. If you're going long term, I think you'd rather have Montgomery because of the age. He's 30. Sonny Gray is 34. But I understand either side of this. I think they're going to get similar AAVs this offseason because they're not all that different.
Yeah, I think if I'm just going next year, I'm going to say it'll be Sonny Gray. I think Jordan Montgomery is going to cash in on a really good season, but not live up to it wherever he goes.
They're different pitchers, I should clarify here. Like, one's a big lefty that is going to attack hitters, just like say, I'm better than you, here comes. The other is Sonny Gray, who's like a 5'10", shorter guy who's winning with just deception and like this unbelievable sweeper. So they go about it very differently. The results end up being kind of similar.
Yeah, I would actually take the side of Sonny Gray, but it is very close because he's just got a little bit better swing and miss stuff. I think they're very comparable in everything that they have in terms of their profile, but who gets a little bit more swing and miss? It's Sonny Gray.
And I know that teams don't do this. I typically lean towards the righty. If I'm giving a multi-year extension, teams seem to like the lefties more because there's just fewer of them. But
Cardinals, especially,
I lean more to the righties because you face more right-handed hitters, so less of a platoon split there. All right, coming up next, we'll hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Tomorrow we're going to talk about this story because Carissa Thompson publicly admitted to making up NFL sideline reports. Now, listen, we can have a discussion about the value of having sideline reporters in general. And I think that is a more than fair conversation to have. This is insanity, dude. To come out here publicly and say, I'm making stuff up. I'm making up a report as to what's taken place, what a coach told me on the sideline. And to not just say it, but to like brag about it. This is a wild thing to do. And an even crazier thing to admit and stand for publicly. Whoo, boy. I'm fascinated to see what the backlash is to it.
Do you know she was a show host on the Game Show Network?
She's done a bunch of stuff, man. I think she's done like some entertainment stuff.
Sideline reporters.
She does a ton of stuff for Fox now. Like, I think she's generally a pretty well thought of studio host. But man, that is a rough admission to say the least.
Imagine being the university that she graduated from with journalism and hearing this.
Brutal.
Yikes.
Absolutely brutal. So we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. Plenty more tomorrow on the show. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow from 11 to 2. The Fast Lane's coming up next from 2 to 6 right here on 101 ESPN.